Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting. This is Tuesday, February 27th. Mary, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Supervisor Vasquez?
Here.
Supervisor Blazer?
Here.
Supervisor Fuhr?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Here.
Supervisor Messick?
Here.
Thank you.
Supervisor Messick, will you do the pledge?
You all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So the consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered to be action items that are routine and can be enacted in one motion. And do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Before we take a vote, is there any public comment? I see none. Any board comment? None. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we're going a little slower today because I'm operating with one hand. Okay, Mary, there we have special presentations. You want to call up the first one?
Yes, we actually have a special presentation from Lyndhurst High School regarding a mock trial exhibition at the Yuba County Courthouse.
Hi, my name is Eden Avila. I am one of the ambassadors for the Lyndhurst mock trial team.
I'm Stephanie. I'm also an ambassador.
And I'm Zach. I am also one of the ambassadors.
We're excited to be here today and share about what we do and invite you to our March 1st event. We have previously presented at the Yuba-Sutter Bar Association meeting, and we met some of you there. We also want to thank Supervisor Bradford and Furrier for their continued support of our team.
Since August, we have been preparing our materials for our mock trial case, People v. Clark. People v. Clark is a murder case where Toby Clark is accused of killing his co-worker, Kieran Sunshine, after his honesty threatens the successful release of their $1 million medical product.
On March 1st, the Yuba-Sutter Bar Association is hosting a showcase featuring our team. We want to invite you all and watch our whole case.
To get you all excited about the exhibition, we would like to show you a bit of my direct examination. Estefania will be the attorney, and I just have a weird feeling that Aiden here might make an evidentiary objection. I played Dr. Parker Turner, an expert witness in this case.
Would one of you like to be the judge for our?
Speak a little closer to the mic so we can hear you.
Would one of you like to be our judge for our direct? Please?
I would be happy to be the judge.
We have a script for you. Don't worry.
All right, go ahead and bring it up to him.
Thanks, Aiden.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Dr. Turner, can you please state your occupation for the court?
I am an independent forensic pathologist.
Dr. Turner, can you briefly outline your qualifications and experience in the field of forensic pathology?
Sure. I have a little over 20 years of experience as an independent forensic pathologist. Throughout my career, I have testified for both sides of the court. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry from the University of Wisconsin and a medical degree from Emory University.
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative.
Any response, counsel?
Your Honor, the witness is describing his expertise and just finished answering the question.
I'll allow it. You may proceed.
How are you involved in today's case?
I was asked to review Toby Clark's medical records as well as physical evidence found on the scene.
Dr. Turner, based on your extensive experience, have you ever encountered a case where a champagne saber was used as a deadly weapon?
No, I can't say that I have.
Dr. Turner, can you provide your professional opinion regarding the practicality and lethality of a champagne saber as a weapon?
Of course. Champagne sabers, they're pretty dull, hard to use. In order for someone to inflict such a deadly wound, it would need to have a lot of force. And with someone with a shoulder injury, that would be really difficult.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
I find in favor of Lyndhurst mock trial.
Thank you for having us today. If you want to see our entire case, we would love to see you on March 1st at the Yuba County Supervisor Courthouse in Marysville.
My teacher will reach out to you with flyers that include the location and time. Thank you very much for having us today.
Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any questions, comments?
I'm ready for my new career.
You were enjoying that way too much.
Through the chair, thank you very much. Good luck.
Okay, Mary, who do we have next?
Okay, so next person we have is a special presentation from Yuba Community College District.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Sean Penn. I'm the serve as Chancellor of Yuba Community College District. I may be a new face to you, being in this job for about 7 years. My colleague, you know very well.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Dr. Tani Dotson. I have the privilege of serving as the president of Yuba College. It's good to see you again.
So thank you for the opportunity to share with you a little bit about community college institution so important in this region, in this county. Community colleges is an important part of higher education in the United States of America. In the state of California, there are 116 community colleges, 73 districts. So together, these 73 districts, 116 colleges serve 1 million students. One of those institutions is in the very backyard. I know many of you, either you have children or yourself associated with Yuba Community College. Yuba College has been in existence 97, 98 years. It's such an important historic institution. So today we want to, Dr. Dotson and I, talk a little bit about what we do, why this institute is important, and hopefully you may have some thoughts, suggestions for us. Yuba Community College District has elected 7 Board of Trustees. We serve a total of 8 counties. I think you may know quite a few of these faces, particularly Trustee T. Garden serves this area, Sutter County, Yuba County. In the middle is our new board chair, who is in the Yolo County, Colusa County area. Rita Andrews also serves part of the Sutter County. On the bottom, we have on the left, serves Yuba and Sutter County, that's Trustee Juan Delgado. Trustee Jesse Ortiz is mostly Yolo County, Woodland Community College. And then we have also the Denise Burbank. Trustee Burbank serves mostly Yuba, that's right. And then on the bottom far right, Trustee Doug Harris, who mostly is the Lake County. These trustees are the governance body. They're elected for 4-year terms. I think the most senior one is Trustee Teagarden, who's being elected 2016 or 14, I forgot. So these are Chancellor's Cabinet, and Dr. Dodson has been the president of Yuba College for almost 4 years. Done a great job. She'll talk a little bit about, and her leadership, the things she and her team has done. I am fairly new to my position, but has been in community college for over 30-some years. We recently brought on board the new president of Woodland Community College. Her name is Lizette Navarrete. In the future, you may meet her. We are so proud that our district have 2 outstanding women college presidents. The rest of them on this slides, it's our vice chancellors. They are in IT, HR foundation, administrative services. Our district is a community college, as we know, is different from many other institutions. We are a public supported institution. We're open door, serve students. You all know about CSU, Davis, or Chico. A community college open door, regardless of the student's background, how well or they didn't do very well in high school, regardless of their background, financially, academically, they are welcome to our institution. So our mission is to truly inspire, advocate for student success. We really stress on quality teaching, learning, and social justice. We aspire to be an institution that is truly pay attention to equitable student success. We want to be student-centered. So the district has 2 colleges, Yuba College, which we are going to focus today. Woodland is part of the district. So 1 district, 2 Hispanic serving institutions, meaning meeting the federal guidelines about the percentage of students who are from the Latino, Hispanic background, and make us eligible for federal aid, particularly serving Hispanic students. We got 3 centers. Sutter County is part of Yuba College, which Dr. Dodson will share a little bit, and then Colusa County has a center, and Lake County campus at Clear Lake. So we offer a comprehensive set of transfer career programs. At High Point, we served over 13,000 students. COVID-19, the past few years, I've seen some decline, but our enrollment is beginning to back up. At the Yuba College, I know we are about 14% up this year against last year, so the trend is trending up. These are some of the most popular programs: nursing, allied health, biology. I won't read all of them, but these are all majors that prepare students either for jobs or transfer to 4-year institutions. So, but these give you a sense the most popular programs students come to our colleges to major in. The district serves as a major economic driver for Northern California. The data is a couple of years old, but it's still relevant. Talks a little bit in 21-22, we have granted 1,565 social degrees, and 383 are degrees that they have a degree but transfer. But we have more students who do not get a degree but already transfer. Sometimes that number is a little bit fluid. More important, you can see we grant a lot of certificates. These are some of the students who are working who come to our colleges to refurbish, if you will, to gain skills so they can get promotion at jobs. So certificates is an important part of what we offer. It is estimated for year 2022, all the students we served, their annual alumni income is close to $17 million. And also at the same year, the district had over 600 students transferred to four-year colleges, universities to continue their education. We have granted just recently almost $18 million total financial aid to support students. As you know, because we're open access institution, many students don't necessarily are from the wealthy background. Financial aid really serves an important role too. So we give a lot of money through the federal government. And during enrollment, it's a big deal. We serve a lot of students working in partnerships with schools to offer dual enrollment. This is truly a remarkable win-win. Students take at the same time high school credits and college credits, saves time, saves money, but more importantly, they build confidence. They know they belong to college. They know they can do it. So these are a little bit quickly about the whole district. I want to have my colleague, Dr. Dodson, talk about specifically Yuba College. And as you know, she's been in this job for close to 4 years, done just a remarkable job. Dr. Dodson, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. There's so much that we could say about what's happening at Yuba College, but I'm going to try and remain focused on some things that I think will be relevant for you all. Yuba College is a comprehensive community college. There is a little bit of everything you can imagine there, from a performing arts theater and active art programs to a robust CTE portfolio in things like police, fire, nursing, etc. We also have 10 athletics teams. It's a little community on its own, and we're really proud of the work that we've done. Obviously, in the last couple of years with the impacts of the COVID pandemic, we have had to focus strongly on enrollment recovery. We lost nearly 20% of our enrollment during the COVID pandemic, and the mitigation factors put in place and individuals making decisions. And we knew right away as an open access institution that we needed to work very hard to recover that enrollment. Wanted to share with you today that we're seeing incredibly positive results in recovering that enrollment. As Dr. Pan mentioned, we're in a 14% year-over-year enrollment growth this year alone, and we're just 7% shy of our 2019-2020 levels. What's remarkable about this is that when I was asked during the 2020 year how long I thought it would take for us to recover that 20% enrollment decline, I thought at least a decade. I thought we'd see maybe a 2 to 3% growth year over year, and that we'd slowly recover. But in reality, some of the things that we've done have made a big difference, and I'm hoping to talk to you about some of them today. In 2021, the district brought together groups of community members and leaders to talk about what they'd like to see from the district and Yuba College specifically, what they'd like for us to focus on. What you see in front of you are the 6 themes that emerged from all of those meetings, and I have used them with our college community to serve as a guiding principle for us on what we're going to do in the years moving forward. And in the last 4 years, we've been able to make some pretty incredible progress, and I want to talk to you about 3 specific ones today. The first is talking about those community-focused CTE programs. And I want to talk about some partnerships that have helped us to be successful. We've partnered with the Yuba Water Agency to create the Watershed Management Program, the Geographic Information System certification that those students receive, and the training that they receive most commonly results in them applying for jobs in the field technician career field. That career field makes on average $60,000 a year. This is a certificate program. So it's not a long-term 2-year degree. It's actually just a 2-semester program where they can get out and not just qualify for jobs at the water agency, although that's important to us. They also qualify for jobs in the utility districts, in cities and counties, and in Caltrans as well. With the GIS certification, they actually can do a lot of different jobs that have long-term living wage career trajectories for them. We've partnered with the E-Center to have an English language learners cohort in early childhood education. Our community needs early childhood education providers that speak both Spanish and English. To meet that need, we've been able to offer a cohort in partnership with the E-Center that has resulted in us transitioning to have a permanent cohort within our early childhood education program moving forward, where students get an opportunity to use both of those language skills and meet the needs directly of the Yuba-Sutter County area. Our Fire Academy is partnering with the Miwok Indian Tribe to provide them with some contract training and some skills that small fire service needs for their community, and we continue to look for opportunities like that. Our nursing program, and you're going to hear a little bit about that on my next two slides, is incredibly important to this community. We know that with our one hospital and our additional health centers, that nursing is growing and it's a challenge to meet the needs. Our partnerships with Adventist Rideout have become an incredibly critical time for us. When we had an instance where one of the hospitals further out of our district was unable to provide clinical hours, our relationship with Adventist Rideout resulted in them immediately accepting all of our nursing students for clinical hours. We'll actually recognize them at our April board meeting for what they were able to do to continue to meet the needs of this district. Dr. Pan talked a little bit about dual enrollment expansion, and hopefully you saw we have more than 2,000 students in the Yuba-Sutter area participating in dual enrollment. Initially, it was in programs like early college, which is a fairly restricted program. There's one degree pathway for all of the students that are in that cohort. But through innovative superintendent partners like Nicole Newman at Wheatland and Falls Ronnie at Marysville Joint Unified, we've been able to expand those partnerships into more flexible opportunities for students who want to explore other options besides that direct transfer degree and instead look into some of those CTE options and perhaps even explore some of the science pathways as well. In trying to meet the needs of our workforce, it's not always just new partnerships. Sometimes we have to make decisions about whether programs are the right thing for our community and for our students. And we have made a decision a few years ago now for our auto body program. As student enrollments steeply continued to decline and industry needs changed about how they'd like to train and have their technicians in their auto body shops perform, we realized that our auto body program was no longer meeting the needs of the industry, and so we ended up closing that program. At the same time, we also need to be thinking about what's next, what are future programs for us, and I want to share with you a little bit of data that we tend to look at when we're exploring these options. What you're seeing here in front of you is some regional labor market data, and I'm going to be brief, but if you'd like me to send you all of this data and spreadsheets, I can certainly do that. But of the top 20 occupations in our service area, those that earn a living wage, and the living wage for our community is listed at the bottom there at about $49,590 a year, and are growing in jobs, and require some post-secondary education, these are the positions that meet those qualifiers. Our registered nursing program I've shared with you is incredibly important, and as we look at that data, we say that's a needed program, and perhaps we need to look for ways to expand that. We're working pretty hard to try and do that now. Management analysts, general and operations managers, accountants, and auditors are places where a bachelor's degree is required. When we see that data, we want to make sure that we have strong associate's degrees programs that will lead into those bachelor degrees. We also want to strengthen our articulation and transfer with the colleges that our students most commonly transfer to, which for Yuba College is UC Davis, Sac State, and Chico State. And then at the bottom, you'll see computer user support specialists and heavy and tractor trailer truck drivers. PSE means post-secondary education. Those are programs that really just require a certificate, some skills training and a certificate. We don't currently offer those programs. So those are places where we might say, this is a living wage, it's a growing job, and it's a need in our community. Perhaps we need to look in and see if we need to create a program if there's not a partner that's doing it already. Here are the 10 largest occupations in our service area that provide a living wage and require more than a high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's degree, and are growing in jobs. So really, this is our niche, if you will. So this is that certificate and associate's degree area. The top 2 in green are programs that we have, our firefighter program, automotive service technicians, and mechanics. So those are places where we want to make sure that we're meeting demand. Do we have enough slots available in those programs? Medical assistance and the LPN or LVN program, we work with our partners in the community, the One Stops and the Yuba County and Sutter County Offices of Education, who have strong programs in that area. And then the bottom list of programs are places where we don't currently offer programs. Those are places where there is some growth, and we may need to identify if that's going to be a sustained growth and a place for us to continue to explore. As a college community, in partnership with leaders like you, we're looking at this information and trying to identify what needs to be our next step to meet our service area's needs moving forward. One of the other themes that arose from our district strategic planning process was a need for us to engage more clearly with the community, to come to the community with our hands out and full of options that we can contribute to make this a better economy or more vibrant community, a place where people want to live long term. And I want to share some examples of things that our college has done in the last 4 years to that end. We've worked hard to be a place where we bring together people to have conversations and thoughts about how to handle issues. You can see that represented here in a few of the photos, one of which is Professor Mark Flax hosted a statewide convening to discuss the challenges around human trafficking. Legislators from across the state came, talked about some of the legislation that was being proposed, but also some of the challenges that we're experiencing. Our partners in police were also there to talk about some of the things that they're seeing on a day-to-day basis in approaching this issue. We have been also trying to serve as a partner for the needs of our community-based organizations and partnerships. For example, with our police department, we serve as a training location for the Sutter and Yuba County Sheriff's offices regularly, as well as the Yuba and Marysville police departments whenever possible. You can see in the top left corner there that some of the canine training was able to happen at our Sutter County Center. During the 2020 pandemic, as parents were faced with the reality that they were going to need a distance education location in their homes for their students, we realized that we had a surplus of desks that were perfect for K-12 smaller people, would take up a small amount of space, and it was an opportunity to provide those to the community so that they would not have to do what a lot of people were doing and struggling, trying to locate a desk to put their student at in their homes. Professor Dan Turner also participated in creating a part of the memorial at Arboga that commemorates the Japanese American internment camps. You can see him there with some of the projects that he and his class built for that location. We were the location of the first Maker Fair in partnership with the community and Wide Awake Geek. And we are trying to be regular participants in parades. You can see pictures of our participation in the East Nicholas Labor Day Parade and the Marysville Parade as well. Our goal certainly is to try and be there because we live here and we work here and we care deeply about the community. The last one I'll mention is sort of in the center there, and that is our continued partnership with the American Association of University Women. They have an annual STEM conference for girls. They bring about 800 eighth graders from the Yuba-Sutter community to Yuba College, and they bring women in non-traditional careers there to talk to them about the potential that they might be able to explore, even when they don't see someone like them exploring those careers. One of the other things, the other themes that came out of that was a request for us to invest not just in our marketing, but also in our facilities. Our Marysville campus is the historical center of the Yuba Community College District. It was built in the 1960s after we transitioned from where Marysville High School is now out to that location in Linda. And we are in, you know better than I, we are in a place where there are investments all around us, not only with the building of Costco and the upcoming Starbucks and Wendy's and the new shopping center near Walmart, but also with housing coming in that will certainly very quickly expand and change what that area of Yuba County looks like. We need to make sure that our 22 plus buildings and 160 acres are prepared to be a part of saying yes to Yuba as well. I would be remiss if I also didn't mention we're working very hard to meet some very quick timelines on the North Beale Road Phase 3 and are incredibly grateful that those investments will happen. It will make a big difference, not just for that road, but for the safety out there as well. So over the past 4 years, we've done some really incredible work to invest in our Marysville facilities as well. Here you can see just one example of a large number of projects that have happened. On the left was the theater a few years ago, and on the right was the theater with a new mural as a part of our campus-wide painting project that happened. All of the facilities at Yuba College went through an external repair and painting process. We added pole signs with photos and directions. We have new campus maps. We added an electronic reader board. We partnered with community organizations like our Rotary Service Clubs to do some work on beautifying the campus to try and make sure that the Marysville campus is the warm and welcoming place that we intend it to be so that students will choose to come there moving forward. I want to just very quickly share with you 3 big things that are next for us. We want to make sure that when students come to us, they stay there. We call it persistence and retention, meaning they stay term to term and year to year, that they finish what they set out to finish. And doing that becomes a little bit more challenging in our world every day as we realize the impact of the time outside of the classroom on our students can make it difficult for them to stay in class. We are hiring student success navigators, and their role will be to ensure the students stay on their journey, their educational journey, while they're with us. They will be the coach or the navigator that students have to call when they need to know what form, what step, what process, what does this mean? Because most of our students are first-time college attending students. They don't have someone to ask, what is a FAFSA? What does matriculation mean, et cetera? We're expanding some of our new programs. You saw a little bit of the data we've been looking at to do that. And we just received a very large grant from the state to expand our zero textbook cost program. What this means is we're taking textbooks that can be very expensive, and we are paying our faculty members to write them in an open educational resource, meaning that it will be open and free to the students to access them through an online resource or through printing them, lowering the cost of attendance for our students in our classes. Our main focus initially is our general education pathway, meaning that the math, English, social science classes that you have to take to get any kind of degree at any college will have zero textbook cost options moving forward. We're also working on refining the enrollment process. While we don't control the application because it's a statewide application, we do have some ability to control how students move through that process. So we've recently redesigned our website. If you haven't been on there, you should go check it out. And we are starting a process to clarify the enrollment steps moving forward. The last is we'll continue to focus on our enrollment recovery and prepare for the rain. And I realize that we just got done with a lot of rain and potentially are having some rain. This is a different kind of rain that I'm talking about here. We recently had a chance to participate in a legislative session in Sacramento, and an individual from the governor's office was talking about the impending budget that is coming forward, and shared, when asked, a little bit about the use of the Rainy Day Fund and how we should be advising our trustees on looking at things like our reserves. And he said that the rainy day fund is to be used when it's raining, and folks, it's probably going to rain. And so certainly we're trying to make the appropriate decisions to be well prepared should the state budget look challenging for us moving forward, because the people, both the students and the employees that work for us, are at the center of everything that we do, and we want to make sure that we can weather whatever that rain looks like as well as possible. With that, I will turn it back over to my colleague, Dr. Pan.
Well, we want to, again, thank you for the opportunity. I know a lot of business. I want to end to see if you have any questions for either of us.
I just have a couple of comments. I think it's really great that you came and brought us up to speed, because everybody's so busy, you don't really know what's going on around you. So that's good. Just curious, how many people here have attended any classes at Yuba? That's good. We'll keep working on that. One clarification on tuition. This has always been a reasonable approach to getting into education and economical. So what is the tuition situation? None?
Yeah, so we still have the California College Promise program, so a super majority of students qualify for that if they are a first-time, full-time student. We continue to have very low number of students who participate in things like loan programs. Our plan is to continue to do that. Enrollment fees or tuition in California are legislated at the state level, so we don't control any of that.
Still an economical approach.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, one of the things we need to continue to get out, regardless of the family's economic condition, and today in America, even in our rural areas where there is poverty, no student should ever concerned about coming to college with no way to pay. Our staff will find ways, whether through financial aid, through loans, through promise, there's a way. We need to get out without.
Thank you. Any other?
Yeah, through
Andy?
Let me see if I can turn this on. Do you still have the police academy, modular academy? I don't know if people know that or not, but we're one of the few junior colleges that has an active and a modular academy. It took me like 3 years to go through the academy, but and also the concealed weapon permit. They got an 832 class, which started that for me. Are you referring people to the one of the only union training schools in Northern California? The closest union training school is Dublin, and that's a unique program in that they start them out as an apprentice. Takes 5 years to get your union card, but there's no student debt at the end. And if you've ever tried to get a plumber or a carpenter or an electrician, it's an area that is has a big need. And you mentioned some of the different campuses. From what I understand, you're one of the most spread out colleges, and you go as far as what, Lake County? And okay, how many county different campuses do you have?
We have 3 centers in addition to the 2 main campuses, which is Marysville and Woodland, 8 counties, 12,000 students.
Well, again, thank you very much for coming and talking to us, because it's an avenue. People say there's no jobs out there. There's no interest in getting up off the couch and going to school and learn one of those jobs. So,
thanks, Andy.
Right, thank you very
much. Anybody else?
I added some trivia questions, and if any of these are too complicated or long, you can just email me the answers. On one of your slides, you mentioned declining adult students. Now, when we say that, do we mean just people who are 18 and older, or do we mean something more specific?
22 and older. So in our enrollment recovery, it's not been even enrollment recovery. And one of our challenges has been re-engaging students over the age of 22. Many of them continue to work and obviously have obligations, above and beyond a traditional college student. And it's been a challenge to re-engage them at the college as well. We're going to do some work to try and focus on ways that we might be able to do that. There's some potential. There's currently a federal bill being looked at to expand Pell grant access to short-term programs. So some of those 1 or 2 semester programs don't typically qualify for Pell Grant, but may make it possible for adults to do that. And so we're trying a little bit of everything to do to see a better recovery there.
All right. And then you mentioned the nursing program. I'm curious, I know that it's often impacted, long roster of wait. Do you have a local priority for people?
So we do not. It's against California state law for us to have a local priority, but I had a feeling this question might come up. 75% of our current nursing students in all of our cohorts live in Yuba and Sutter counties. So a majority of our students do end up living in this area. We have advocated at the state level for some ability to provide some priority, some points or something for students for our community specifically. We just haven't been successful in doing so.
What is the criteria that is legal that allows you to choose who gets into the program, or is it simply first come, first served, name on a list? In other words, if we had something at the high school level that gave them some sort of class or training that would give them more points, can that be done, or no, it's just first come, first served temporally?
I'm going to give you the short answer and promise you the email with the link that tells you about the application process to the nursing program. So remember that we're an open access institution, and the intention is anyone who wants to come here can come here. So there's not supposed to be a selective admissions process. There's a semi-selective admissions process in nursing because, as you mentioned, we get about 200 to 300 applications for about 30 to 50 students that can enter in a semester, and so that can be challenging. In order to get into the nursing program, you have to complete a list of pre-nursing requirements that are pretty extensive, and your performance in those classes impacts your selection into the program. So certainly what I would say in the short answer is take the pre-nursing requirements, the biology classes, et cetera, and do very well in them, and that will set you up for the highest potential to get into the program. But when you're trying to be an open access institution in a place where you have to, there's a small funnel.
All right. You, one of the other programs right under nursing I think I saw was English language learners, and it was an early impact that you're doing with the E-Center, and I'm really excited about that because last week I saw some numbers from the Lyndhurst School that surprised me. 19% I think were ESL at Lyndhurst, 55% were Hispanic, and so those numbers impact test scores when you are ESL, obviously. Have you found that the English language learning at the early levels has a more direct or greater impact depending on when? I would assume that's the case. What is the time frame? What is the mission target of when to hit that?
You know, so we accept students wherever they are and do our best to take them to where they want to go. And so we have an English language learners program no matter what point they're coming to us. So we have ELL classes that students can take before they will enter a typical college class, or that they can take while they are in there. And our goal certainly is to meet them wherever they are and help them to get where it is that they want to go. I don't know that I could tell you the answer to what's the best time for that to happen, but I know it's something that we need to pay greater attention to. I moved back in the slides because 38% of our students currently identify as Hispanic or Latino, which means that they're actually the largest population of students on our campus. And we see that in our community, and we need to be better about making sure that we're meeting them wherever it is that they are.
You had mentioned a bunch of career choices, and it was great which ones that were at the top of the list. But some of the ones that were in the middle and the bottom seemed to me that they would be impacted quite a bit with AI and other modern technological innovations. I know that a couple years ago people said trucking was going to go extinct because of navigation systems. And I think I saw paralegal, and that's another one that is supposed to vanish over time. So when you look at your focuses, how much is that playing into it?
Yeah, well, I will tell you that through the leadership of a number of faculty members in our district and the exploration of AI, both the positive and the negative impacts of AI on the classroom is being explored, because we certainly want to use it where it can be a benefit, and identify where it's not going to be a positive contributor to a student's education. And certainly as we look at future programs, this is where the science and the art sort of come together, if you will, because it's a little bit of a predictor about what the future might look like. I don't know that any of us ever thought that we would have tractors out on our farms that were, being driven robotically, and that's a reality today. And so certainly it's something that comes into play here. Our goal with all of our career technical education programs, or our workforce-focused programs, is to teach them for tomorrow's skills. So we work really hard with advisory committee members that come in regularly to say, this is today's technology, and this is what we're hearing about the future. And then for us to implement teaching practices that will help them to focus on what the future is going to look like, so that they don't get there and start behind. And those are the kinds of things that we try and keep up with, especially as it relates to AI, although that's going so fast.
Sure. I would hate to see us train for obsolete professions. They graduate, and then it's a reducing field. You mentioned student success navigators at the end, and I was kind of curious. We've had in the past school counselors and that sort of thing. It seemed like it was the same idea, but on a maybe smaller scale. So are you going to be having other students be the navigators? Is it going to be on a smaller ratio of people? Exactly how's that going to work?
Yeah, so counselors at both high schools and colleges are magic, and they have a broad ability to do a lot of things. The real valuable benefit of the work that they can do in connecting directly with a student, understanding them well, and helping them to guide their journey, so making good career decisions, making good life decisions, connecting them, is something that takes a little bit more time. And we want to create an environment where when students go into a counselor, they get an opportunity to make those kinds of really magical, meaningful relationships with counselors, and have other people who are available for some of the more transactional things that sometimes students come to a counselor for. So it can be some of the things I talked about. Where is this form? Or I'm struggling with food. Is there a place that I can get some resources? I'm struggling with trying to get a hold of my teacher to talk about this issue. Some of those things can be done by a coach that will help with a quicker, more transactional conversation, and it allows the counselors to pay more attention, have more time to have that meaningful relationship with students. For me, I had a great relationship with one of my high school counselors where we had open conversations about what I was really worried about. And that changed for me decisions that I made moving forward, and we want our counselors to be able to do that. So it's really kind of sort of separating some of that work to allow them to do what we know they do best and what they got master's degrees to do, really.
So like how many navigators are you looking at getting?
Yeah, right now we're hiring 4. We expect for that, if the pilot is successful, to go up to 8.
Okay.
And we have quite a few more counselors. But like I said, they'll have more in-depth relationships with students.
Thanks.
Thank you for the trivia. Glad I survived.
Thanks, Seth. Those very good questions. Thank you. Anybody else have a short question?
I have a long comment.
One comment coming up.
So I just wanted to thank you for making it easier for high school students to get into Yuba College, whether in high school, because 20 years ago, almost, I took my daughter out there in the middle of her senior year, and it wasn't so easy to get her into Yuba College in the middle of the year, but I was successful mainly by persistence. I think they were either going to let her enroll or get a restraining order against me. And she finished Yuba College, went on to UNLV, University of San Diego, and is now a Nuke Med Tech. So, yeah,
Right.
Yuba College put her on the right track.
We're still looking at the admissions process. It's part of her priority. We're looking at a district-wide, how do we make it more student-friendly, student-intuitive? So that's part of the reason we're continuing to look at it. We'll simplify it, streamline it. Thank you. I know you have a busy agenda. Appreciate it very much for your questions.
Thank you very much. Your team is impressive, and we're excited for you.
Thank you.
Bye. And next, Mary.
Next, we have Code Enforcement Department update.
Just to warn you, Jeremy, I will have trivia questions.
You know, last year I think I escaped without any questions, so that'll be different. Just a moment to set up here. Well, good morning, Chair, members of the board. Jeremy Strang with Code Enforcement today. Thank you for having me here and giving me this opportunity to provide you with an annual. You know, last year was the first year that we provided a pretty comprehensive report to your board, and so I guess we can dub this the second annual report for Code. As I go through the slide deck today, I'm going to touch on what was reported a little bit last year, but I won't go into the big history lesson that I provided you, so it'll be a shorter presentation today. And so the first thing I'd like to talk about is staff. Staff are very important, and what get things done. That's how we get things done. And so last year, if you remember, I introduced our 4 new staff, all with less than 12 months of experience in code enforcement, and then we had just the 1 officer with several years. During the budget workshop last year, I had reported to your board that we lost one of those new officers to a surrounding county. And so we started the recruitment process again. And I'm happy to report today that we're almost fully staffed, which is a great thing. So organizationally, what that looks like, because I also made some structural or organizational changes. I filled the supervising officer position, which helps me with daily operations. I created a brand new senior officer position, and she is helping me with the complex cases and training of new staff. We added a brand new administrative analyst that is helping with things like this hearing, presentations, statistics, and metrics. You can see there that we also have 5 code enforcement officers. 4 of those are full-time allocations, and 1 is extra help. Our office specialist was housed here in the government center, and so we recently moved her over to the sheriff's office where code enforcement sits, and that's helping with communication. Our 2 road maintenance workers were extra help. We've converted those to full-time positions as well. And then, of course, our 2 deputies. One of those has turned out and went back to patrol, and we have a new deputy, Deputy Lundgren, that's assisting us. So last year, I also pointed out our enforcement partners. So this is just a list of people that, agencies and departments that we deal with, both internally and externally to the county, that help us with enforcement, and we also can help them from time to time. So I'll jump into the numbers, because this is what's important. So the far right columns are what we did in 2023, and that is the focus of today's presentation. So you can see there that we opened just over 500 new cases in 2023, and we closed just under 600, and this is very good news, and here's why. Last year, during our report, I had told you that our active caseload was in excess of 1,100, and in fact, it had gone over 1,200 active cases. And so those 500 new that we opened, we don't close necessarily. The 600 aren't exactly those same 500. And so if you see in the center of your screen, we currently have an active case count of 376 of the 16th of February. That's a manageable number for the officers. 1,200 is just too much. And you can see in 2022 a big spike in the closure of cases, and that was a priority of mine as we brought on new staff, where we had old cases that we no longer had officers for, or that in our case priority schedule, if you remember that, it didn't rank very high. And then in some instances, we weren't receiving any complaints. And so along with those, and after inspections were made, maybe there was compliance. We closed a whole bunch of cases, which allowed us to have a more manageable caseload for the officers. And then the last thing I'll point out on this slide is that trend of the blue line. You'll see over the 5-year period, it trends downward. And the reason for that, as I mentioned last year, is that we have taken a pretty severe break in marijuana enforcement. And so those marijuana numbers where we had cases, a couple of hundred cases of those, we haven't had in a while. And I'm hoping to fold back in marijuana this year. We'll see how that goes with some of our other priorities. But hopefully that line will, well, hopefully it never trends up, but that's what keeps us in business, I suppose. So the 506 new cases that were opened, this is where it took us. You can see the first 5 columns there on the left. Linda, Olivehurst, Plumas Lake, West Linda, and Arboga are primarily where the complaints take us. This year we were actually able to pull out of the system by supervisory district. And so you can see there 116 in District 1, 36 in District 2, 125 in District 3, and then 113 and 116 in Districts 4 and 5. So that's again where the complaints are taking the team and where we do most of our work. So these are the metrics that we use as strong workload indicators for what we do. So oftentimes, everything you see here will lead to an abatement, and you can see at the bottom I do call out abatements. Again, this is where we spend a lot of our time. So you can see that we issued 57 abatement orders last year in 2023. We executed 12 inspection warrants. This number seems very high to me, but if you can believe it, we posted 80 buildings and structures unsafe to occupy last year. And out of those, 9 of the units were occupied with individuals that qualified for relocation assistance, a program that we run, which the county spent just over, I wouldn't say spent, advanced over $27,000 to those folks because they were displaced because of the notice and order to abate and the unsafe to occupy. So we were able to complete 48 abatements. 26 of those were county-led, and 22 were voluntary with a notice and order. So we issue an order, and we were able to gain voluntary compliance. And then the last thing there is our stipulation agreement. This is an important tool that we have where we issue an order to abate. People may not have the willingness or the ability to perform that abatement activity. They decide they want to sell. We don't want to stand in the way of that. So we require the potential buyer to stipulate what the condition of the property is, the fact that there's a notice and order that they cannot contest, and then we have them agree that they abate the nuisance within a time certain, usually about 60 days after close of escrow, and that they pay our enforcement costs. So very, very great tool that we have, and I have some examples later in our pictures. So our partnership with the Sheriff's Department, this is an incredible venture. It has proven as a pilot to be well needed, much needed in our community. As you know, these guys bridge gaps and fills holes in our enforcement, and they provide additional officer safety to the code enforcement officers. They are performing outreach to homeless along with camping enforcement. They help us with everything code enforcement, including marijuana enforcement. And they're also doing outreach within the prime commercial corridors. A good example of that is Ballantyne. Deputy Ballantyne had worked with Walmart for well over a year trying to get them to trim up some of the vegetation that was in the back of their lot where people tended to make encampments. And so they finally went back, and we were successful there and got that vegetation trimmed up. So you can see their numbers. They're very, very similar to last year. Their efforts result in stolen vehicle recoveries, confiscation of illicit drugs, including fentanyl, removal of illegal firearms from our streets, and then felony arrests of gang members and parolees and such. So a lot going on there, and they did a wonderful job. So as I told you, we didn't really take the lead on marijuana enforcement, but this is a very good slide here. We participated with the marijuana team with the county, Net 5, and Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we assisted in over 30 criminal warrants, resulting in the destruction and seizure of over 66,000 plants. And I will tell you, after talking with the team, this appears to be the highest plant count that the county has seen since we've been tracking our marijuana statistics. The next slide is abandoned vehicle abatement. So the county is a part of a vehicle abatement authority that is comprised of 3 member entities. That's the city of Marysville, the city of Wheatland, and the unincorporated area of the county. So in 2023, we removed 218 vehicles. Those were abatements of cars, trucks, motorhomes, boats, travel trailers, all of those things. So the costs associated with the removal of those 218 vehicles exceeded $30,000. And I will tell you that that program is paid for through vehicle registrations. It's collected with your registration through DMV, and then they transmit that money to the authority, to the county. So that's vehicles being removed. This is always an exciting slide for me. So this is our hand crew. This was a pilot program that we started a few years back. These guys were intended to follow Officer Clark and Deputy Ballantyne around to encampments and clean up as we went. And we've really expanded what they're doing. As I had mentioned, they were extra help employees. Now they are permanent full-time position allocations. And again, we expand what they do. So these guys are 2 guys picking stuff up by and large by hand without equipment. They removed over 119 tons of debris from our waterways, streets, over 1.5 tons of vegetation removal, and you can see the tires, appliance, and mattresses. One of the cool things that we did with them in 2023 was we also assisted the sheriff's office in their SWAP program. So that's where people that have gone to court and have been sentenced to incarceration are allowed to do, it's the Sheriff's Work Alternative Program, and they're allowed to do community service. So we ran weekly a SWAP team that helped these guys do roadway cleanup. And we spent a lot of time on North Beale, Simpson Lane, et cetera. And one of the big things we did was we were out at the Tri-County Juvenile Hall just before the grand opening, making sure things were trimmed up and there was no garbage around. So these guys do an amazing job. It's absolutely imperative that we keep them. So last year, we had abatement orders out. This was the list that I presented to your board. Certainly, you saw that we did a lot more abatement activity than what is on this list, but this I wanted to report back to you. As you can see in the right column, all of these but 2 have been completed, with the exception of a couple of cost accounting hearings. Those will start trickling into your board. We are creating them currently, and you will start seeing those regularly. So I'm very proud of staff for the work that they do in cleaning up these properties. And then quickly, I'm just going to go through some before and afters of some of the things that we did. Some of these pictures you've seen previously, but the abatements hadn't been complete. So this was on 2nd Avenue. This was an animal cruelty case. There was also substandard housing and other things going on. You can see we raised the dwelling there, and that's what the property looked like after. This is a long-time standing nuisance on Ella Avenue. We had an open and accessible structure, partially burned, I believe, structure there in the forefront where they didn't remove the foundation. We cleaned that up. This was a shade tree, if you will, mechanic who was operating a business out of his home, cars coming and going. It was a terrible nuisance for that neighborhood. We ended up cleaning that house, getting rid of the vehicles. You can see it in the after photo there. I will tell you this one also has a stipulation agreement. So if someone came in and purchased this house, we'll be making it a very nice dwelling, really improving that neighborhood. This is one on Park Avenue that we had caused to be boarded over a number of years ago. We couldn't, the owner would not keep people out. It just kept being lit on fire or more junk and debris put in it, so we ended up raising that one as well. This is property on Highway 20. You did see this picture last year as well, the one on the left anyhow. This one is on the, if you were traveling westbound, you could see it on the north side of the road looking down towards Smartsville. We completely cleaned that property up. This is another stipulation agreement type property where the owner was unwilling or unable to clean up the mess. Someone came in and purchased the property and cleaned it up. This particular property on one of our prime corridors, this is an ongoing project, but I wanted to show you just the improvement here. So the building on the left was littered with graffiti, gang graffiti at the end. It was a harbor for homeless individuals. There were 2 structure fires set inside that Linda Fire had to extinguish. So we ended up tearing that down. There's still a bit more to do, but we are making headway on that particular project. Another stipulation agreement, 7th and Arboga. Property owner unwilling, unable to correct the conditions. We had a new buyer come in, and that's what it looks like today on the right. This was a very big project. This is on Chestnut, just north of the old drive-in theater. We had a notice in order to abate on this property, but what really brought it to the top is there was a criminal warrant through Net 5 for fentanyl. We accompanied them on that particular warrant and put this to the highest priority, and it's now cleaned up. This is a smaller type activity. This was also a stipulation agreement where we had inoperable vehicles, a partially burned dwelling, and people occupying RVs. That was picked up by someone and cleaned up, and it actually looks even better today than it does in that right picture. Another one on 2nd Avenue, open and accessible. We raised that dwelling. Here's one on Hammond and Smartsville that we did last year. This was one in Wheatland where it was almost essentially a homeless encampment where people were living in RVs, occupying buildings that were not intended for human habitation. junk and debris. We issued an order. We were able to get that one cleaned up. On Alicia Avenue and Linda, also substandard housing. There was an illegal greenhouse for marijuana, and that was cleaned up. This one was a voluntary compliance. We issued a notice in order to abate. The property owner abated it on 2nd. One very, very similar on 9th Avenue. And so that's really the pictures kind of showcasing some of the larger projects that we did in 2023. This is the roadmap, if you will, of what we're going to focus on here in 2024. As your board is probably aware, this isn't in concrete. This is a list that's quite dynamic because sometimes things come to our attention that will take higher priority than these, but this will keep us moving down the road, if you will. Certainly our activities won't change. We are going to continue to focus our enforcement efforts on our major highways and entry points to the county. Certainly our prime commercial corridors, Lyndhurst, North Beale, and Oliphurst. And then, of course, waterways, illegal camping, and marijuana will continue to be a priority for us. So with that, and in closing, I would just really like to extend a thank you to your board, certainly the county administrator's office, the sheriff's office, and even county counsel's office. Without not do what we do, and certainly the financial support that we receive through Measure K funding and the Yuba Water Agency allows us to make great impacts in our community that we serve. And so with that, any questions that you may have?
Through the chair.
I have, go ahead, Andy.
Great presentation, Jeremy. Success at last. How many years you've been?
It was a rough couple of years for sure.
Shoveling sand against the tide.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
And they're all complaint driven. Unless somebody makes a complaint, you don't show up. So people need to know you have to file something to get something done.
That's
thank
very
you very
true.
much for the job. Tell your staff thank you.
Thank you.
Gary, you had a question?
Through the chair, yeah, I just wanted to echo Supervisor Vasquez's excellent presentation. I loved all the statistics and especially, kind of the breakdown of where things have been happening and what previous cases are and, all the numbers as well as the amazing pictures of what's been done. And so thank you to you and your team.
Thank you, Supervisor Bradford.
So code enforcement seems to be works its way up the list of things that bother the residents. A few years ago, it seemed like there was a backlog of cost accounting. So we would do the abatement, and then it would be some time before it ever got to assessing the property. How is that kind of smoothed out, or?
Well, excellent question. It is not smoothed out just yet, but the administrative analyst that we've put in place, Harrison Bierstecker, he is working on those very old cost accounting projects. In fact, we just received 2 back from County Council. So again, those will be trickling in. There will be some old ones that come through because we just simply didn't have the resources to build those cases. And so I anticipate my goal currently is 2 per meeting. If we can meet that, we're going to have to get the machine running, if you will. We're a little clunky at this point, but we will get there. And we'll probably have 2 per meeting at the time certain, 1:30 p.m.
Yeah, I see actually great improvement from a couple of years ago. And it's definitely a quality of life issue for the residents, so keep it up. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a comment through the chair.
Another comment?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you as well, because I've noticed a big difference just in the last year. And I guess you're getting back to people too, because people used to call and complain that you hadn't gotten back to them, and then I'd call and you'd be like, no, we've been doing this, this, and this. So I'm back and let them know, and I'm getting a lot less of that. And in fact, I'm getting, sometimes a couple times now, I've gotten a call, and before I've even called you, I've gotten a call back, wow, thanks for getting that taken care of so fast. So between the call and before I even called you, you guys were there and got on it. So it's very impressive. You're getting a lot done. Are your officers here?
I did not bring them today. I have our supervisor, Tony. He's in the back. He can stand up. He's helping me out tremendously. COVID was a huge impact on code enforcement, and we lost a lot of officers, all but one. And so this has been a tough, challenging years, but I'm happy to hear the feedback And I certainly appreciate it because these folks are out there working very, very hard every day to do what they can for the community.
If they were here, I just wanted to let all of them know that the Yuba-Sutter Sheriff's Aero Squadron is available to you guys as well.
I asked them to listen in, so maybe they're listening in.
Yeah.
Also, I'll make sure that today's presentation, if anybody want it, I will have it in PDF format. It will be on our webpage after today. So if you want to grab it from there, you can as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
On the staff size, you said that back in 2021 we were down to 1 officer, I believe. So that was the entire, and now we're at 13. Is that the correct number?
13 is not the number. It's now you're going to make me do math. It's so we have 5 officers, a supervisor, a senior officer, 2 administrative staff, the 2 maintenance workers, and then the 2 deputies. So yeah, it's you've already done the math, I can tell.
All right, cool. So my question is, and all of those positions are full, so I was curious that you had no empty slots currently.
I currently, because one of them is extra help, I do have 1 empty slot that I anticipate on filling, yes.
Okay, excellent.
We'll roll the extra help into full-time.
All right, and it was at 1, and so we went from 1 to 13 in the last 3 years.
Essentially,
on the math, so 1 to 5 on the officers?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the other people are already working in that department, because I was under the impression that we'd added those positions as well.
Well, we added the pilot programs, I believe, Kevin, you can help me out here because my memory isn't great, but I think before COVID, we had already added the 2 maintenance workers. They were extra help part-time.
Okay.
And in 21, I believe, we added the 2 deputies, but our officer count didn't change. So this is the most officers that we've had.
Okay. And then my other question was, I saw the address on all of First Avenue. I was wondering if there had been any progress or if we had any change there. It was an escrow last time we talked, I think.
It did fall out of escrow. Stay tuned. Things are happening, but it may come before your board at a later time, so I don't want to touch on it too much just yet.
Thank you, Seth. Do we have any other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Encouraging. So, Mary, public communications?
Yes, any person may speak about any subject of concern, provided it is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors and is not already on today's agenda. The total amount of time allotted for receiving such public communication shall be limited to a total of 15 minutes, and each individual or group will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Prior to this time, speakers are requested to fill out a request to speak card and submit it to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. Please note, no board action can be taken on comments made under this heading. And through the chair, we do have 1 request to speak card, and it is Tony Farley.
Morning, Tony.
Tony Farley from South Sawyer County, South Peter City. Thank you, County Minister Kevin, for your service. Thank you, County Council, the best way ever. Thank you, Don Blazer, District 2. Thank you, John A. Misk, District 5. Thank you, Gary Bradford, District 4. Thank you, Seth Fuller, District 3, where my stepdad BW is at. I believe Annie's part of BW. That's good. And District 1, Andy Vasquez. Thank you. Here to thank Thomas Woder. He is the Republican Senate Committee of Election. I'd like to vote him for someday. Here to thank the sheriff. Thank you for a gift. Thank you, 2 Rachels. I call them Rachels. 2 Rachels. Thank you, the female attorney. Thank you, the code enforcement manager. Thank you to Tony, new code enforcement officer, Tony code enforcement. Here to thank everybody for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, that is all the cards.
Okay. On county departments, all matters listed under county departments are actually action items, which will be considered and voted on separately. The first one is number 67/2024. Is it Ian?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Ian Scott. I'm here to talk today about the AT&T Carrier of Last Resort withdraw item. So in order to understand this issue, there are a few key terms. Carrier of last resort. This is a legal status requiring telecommunications entities such as AT&T to provide basic service such as plain old telephone service. AT&T proposes to replace this plain old telephone service with voice over internet protocol, which allows phone calls via broadband similar to cell service. Plain old telephone service is a landline telephone service plugged into the R11 wall socket, which everyone but the ostensibly the youngest generations among us will recognize in their houses. So the reason why we're discussing this today is that AT&T is the carrier of last resort within most of California, meaning that it is required to provide plain old telephone service to anyone who requests it. AT&T is attempting to withdraw from its carrier of last resort status, which, if approved by the California Public Utility Commission, would result in 580,000 AT&T customers statewide being left with fewer options for service. In terms of alternatives, voice over internet protocol and cell service within Yuba County and elsewhere within rural areas statewide are less reliable than plain old telephone service. So we have a map here which depicts three colors. The white areas are those that AT&T is interested in doing nothing with at present. The largest area is the blue area, in which AT&T would be allowed to withdraw as carrier of last resort within 6 months of approval of their application with the California Public Utility Commission. And the pink area in the northeast corner of the county, AT&T would be able to withdraw through a streamlined future CPUC process if they are approved for this application. That would just be an over-the-counter. They don't have to notice anyone. They can just do it. The map here that is linked, anyone can go to and see the effect of this statewide. And I have recently become aware that California is actually not the only state that this is occurring in with this attempt to withdraw from the carrier of last resort for plain old telephone service. Apparently it's a nationwide issue. So why is this an issue? While AT&T states that voice over internet protocol and cell service are adequate alternatives to plain old telephone service, significant concerns from the rural county representatives of California and other advocates state otherwise. County Emergency Services, and thank you, Sheriff Anderson, as well as Oscar from OES for being here today, rely on plain old telephone service for emergency communications, particularly when power outages occur, as plain old telephone service does not require electricity, whereas voice over internet protocol and cell service, which AT&T proposes to replace this service with, actually do require electricity. And one issue with that, in fact, one of AT&T's talking points that they've been sending around is that voice over internet protocol and cell service will be backed up by batteries for 24 hours. And then their talking points further list that customers, and I'm paraphrasing here, but customers have other options available to them where they can pay out of their pocket to get an additional 8 to 48 hours of power backup. As we know from the effects of the most recent storms, the impacts within here in Yuba County, there were businesses as well as residences that had power downtime for significantly longer than 24, 48, or 36 hours. So I'm just calling attention to that. Customers and first responders need reliable access to these services, including 911 and 211, which provide the ability to receive alerts and notifications. Again, with the incumbent plain old telephone service technology, this does not require power. Additionally, mountainous and forested rural regions are the most susceptible to poor voice over internet protocol and cell service coverage. In the case of voice over internet protocol, this is more prominent when the broadband technology is wireless internet technology solutions used to push that voice over internet protocol call, which makes them unfeasible alternatives. And as a matter of fact, just last week, I'm not sure how many people saw this on the news, but on Thursday the 22nd, AT&T experienced a nationwide service interruption that resulted in as long as 8-hour service interruptions in major U.S. cities. Again, that interrupted their voice over internet protocol and cell service, not their plain old telephone service. So, with these in mind, the recommendation before your board today is to approve the chair's signature on a letter of opposition to AT&T's application with the California Public Utility Commission to withdraw as care of last resort. I'd like to thank you all very much for your time today. I'm available to answer any questions you have, and if there are technical questions related to emergency operations, of course, Sheriff Anderson and Oscar from OES are also here.
Do we have any public comment on this? Okay. Any board comments, questions?
Yes, through the chair. I'd like to thank you because I know how long you've been working on this for many months, even before it hit the public, and Sheriff Anderson and Oscar at OES. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the signature since my district.
Let me see if we have any other public.
I'll second.
Any other
Through
board?
the chair.
Yeah, let's get the board comments first.
AT&T is not taking into account their coverage, and the lack of coverage puts a lot of people in danger if they pull that out. Is there any way we can let them know that we're not extremely happy with that other than a letter?
As a matter of fact, there is. In addition to the letter, the county could have either any combination of our elected officials and or staff provide comments in the official California Public Utility Commission proceeding to make it clear to them that that we disagree with this approach. And then in addition to that, there's also a survey being disseminated asking in broad terms what the effects would be technically on the county as an institution if this does occur.
Is there any way that county council can look up any reason that they wouldn't be held civilly liable for any deaths or destruction that occurred because of their limitation of the phone service? You know, that's a public utility.
Yeah, so a public utility is in general controlled by the state and the California Public Utilities Commission, and their duties and responsibilities as a utility are controlled there. And then the question of liability would be a case-by-case basis. So, but we can definitely look into it if you'd like us to look further.
Well, we might tell them that we are going to pursue civil action if they pull it out of the hills, because some of the hills don't have coverage. And like Woodley for challenged areas like that. All right.
So I think it was at the Agency on Aging meeting, but I think you're going to get letters from most all the counties probably on this. One little comment they had, they said no matter how many times we tell a constituent they're not going to remember. And one day they're going to say, what happened to my service? It just disappeared. So, yeah, I don't understand why AT&T, it's probably all financial, but I think it's very important that we put this letter together and state our position.
I'll make a second.
Okay, I think we had a motion from Gary,
Motion
from Sean, and a second from Gary.
Okay.
And we had no public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Apparently not. Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I hope to with a lighter-hearted topic.
So we're going to take a pause. Yeah, I can do that. So we're going to take a little break, if you don't mind. We have anticipating some lengthier discussions coming up. So we're going to take about 5 minutes, regroup, and we'll be back.
Thank you.
Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.
or environmental protection matter made at any hearing described in this notice, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm very sorry, but I don't believe our speakers are on. So, boardroom speakers. Okay, can you hear us out there? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, if you challenge in court the action or decision of the Yuba County Board of Supervisors regarding a zoning, planning, land use, or environmental protection matter made at any hearing described in this notice, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at such hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the Yuba County Board of Supervisors at or prior to such hearing. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual or group. Our first agenda item we have is agenda item number 83-2024.
So, Mary, I think we officially have to open the public hearing? No. Not yet. Go ahead.
Community Development and Services Ordinance, hold public hearing, waive reading, and adopt ordinance to repeal and reenact Title 11 Development Code and County Zoning Map and determine project is exempt from California Environmental Quality Act, Section 15183.
Okay, we are opening the public hearing.
Hello, this is Kevin Perkins. I am with Community Development. I want to thank you guys for having us for our annual Development Code update. These are Development Code changes that have happened in 2023. Generally we kind of have themes with what we're seeking on changes. This year it's to ensure there's some restrictions, and we're requesting some restrictions in some of our zoning designations to ensure our commercial corridors are robust in the way that we want them to be, and also there's some clarification and disclosure stuff that we are adding into our code. So I'll jump through these really fast. Again, this is an annual update. We brought this to the Planning Commission on January 17th. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend all the changes to your board. We did a pretty thorough discussion with the Planning Commission and took in their feedback. The Planning Commission was really receptive and liked all of the changes. So right now I'm going to give you kind of a little explanation of what we're doing, and then I'll jump into each one. I'll try to go a little quick through each one, but just remember at the end of my presentation, I'm here to answer any questions or talk in more detail on some of the specific changes. All right, so first of all, you guys might have noticed in your staff report on face value, this year there's some stuff that we're looking to remove from our development code, which doesn't really seem, you guys might be thinking to yourself, hey Kevin, what are you doing? This really isn't yes for you, but you guys have in the past, made things easier for businesses and the development community. Why are you making some restrictions? And I really want to talk through these restrictions because, I think the intention of them are good, and you guys will most likely agree when we're talking about it. So, one, we do want to be yes focused. And so, there's really three factors or three themes on this. Is one, yes, we are committed to strengthening our commercial corridors and our retail in our county. Your board has given us direction over the last few years that you want our North Beale and Lyndhurst Avenue corridors, among others, to take priority for us to really ensure that they're the type of corridors that businesses want to go to. And so some of the restrictions that you'll see are trying to make sure that land uses that are allowed right now that really aren't what you want to see next to, mini storage, outdoor storage of vehicles next to the new Costco or the vacant properties next to Walmart. And so that's what we're really trying to do is limit where those uses are so that we can make sure that those corridors get developed in the way that your board has given us direction for. The second area that we want to be yes to is our industrial land. Your board and the Yuba Water Agency have made significant commitments to infrastructure in our valley growth boundary over the last few years. And, what we want to see come out of that are jobs, sales tax producing businesses, and things that really will draw manufacturing and other types of uses similar to that. And so, you know, we've had a lot of uses over the last couple of years, or proposals that don't provide a lot of jobs, don't provide uses that are providing sales tax to the county, et cetera. And so we wanted to make sure that we put those types of uses in areas that are more appropriate and not our valuable industrial and commercial land in our valley growth boundary. And lastly, it's a yes to our valley growth boundary. Our valley growth boundary, I know I've talked about it a few times, but in 2011, your board made a big commitment to urbanized growth being within the valley growth boundary and growth outside the valley growth boundary to not happen, so that we can protect our natural resources, our farming community, Beale Air Force Base, and all the other things that have made Yuba County great over the years, and why people live and want to come visit this area. And so, you know, with that, there's some non-urbanized uses right now that could be allowed in our valley growth boundary that we want to make sure that are permitted outside of our valley growth boundary in the future, so that we don't run into a problem of non-urbanized uses filling up our valley floor, and as we grow in the future, we don't have the proper land within our valley growth boundary for the development, the more urbanized development, which would then put some pressure on staff and your board to expand our valley growth boundary into our farming regions and closer to Beale, which is something that, you know, I don't think is a really great idea. So I'm going to jump into these really quickly. Again, there's about 20 items. I'm going to give you a little overview at the end of my presentation. Please ask any specific questions. So first we have freight truck terminals and warehousing. This basically is truck parking. Right now the county has 2 approved truck parking facilities in our valley growth boundary. One is at the Yuba County Airport. It's about half filled, maybe a quarter to a half filled. And then we have another one that our Planning Commission recently approved on Rancho Road that is a 20-acre parcel, and it's about 99% vacant. So there's plenty of room right now in our valley growth boundary with existing places for truck parking. Right now we're proposing to remove it so that we have areas that could be used for industrial at a later date, for more manufacturing, more job-based industrial uses, and less uses that could be done in our ag industrial areas located in our natural community outside our valley growth boundary. The second item is removing outdoor storage and personal storage as a permitted use in our commercial districts within our valley growth boundary. And essentially right now outdoor storage would be if a company had, you know, large equipments like Nordic Industries, you know, they have an area in the Yuba County Airport where they keep their equipment. That area is zoned industrial. We're not saying that they can't do that in industrial land or other people can't do it in industrial land. We just don't want that on our commercial corridors. So right now, with a conditional use permit, someone could propose a project where they put outdoor storage right next to the Costco, on the vacant land next to the Costco, and or mini storage or personal storage next to Costco. We think that, you know, we have areas in our industrial zone and areas outside of our valley growth boundary in our rural areas that can accommodate those uses and those needs. Next, we have solar and wind generation facilities. You know, solar farm, wind turbines are more of a rural type of activity. Right now, they could be allowed in our valley growth boundary with the conditional use permit. We're seeking to get that removed so that we don't have any issues 10, 15, 20 years down the line with a solar facility next to a property that is zoned, let's just say office, and you have an office next to a solar farm, and the office is shading the solar farm, you know, and the office is intended to go in that area. So we don't want to create these conflicts in the future, or you know, take up valuable land in our valley growth boundary for uses that are non-urbanized. So that covers that. On fences, I want to let you know there was an error in your staff report. We're saying prohibiting chain link fences in all the zones except industrial. That's not the case. We're allowing chain link fences in single-family residential within our valley growth boundary. We just want our new development for commercial, industrial, and multifamily to have a higher quality fence type to continue with improving our area and our commercial and industrial corridors. So we are proposing only to prohibit chain link fencing in the industrial, commercial, and multifamily properties for only new development. So if something's existing, that fence is fine. Next, property access. We've realized over the past year that, and again, this is just a minor issue, when we permit building permits, there's a requirement to make sure that those properties have legal access for this, to get to access to the structure. And this little clarification right now will put some language in that if Public Works can't determine if a property has legal access, that the property owner needs to provide us how they have legal access to access their site. So, we don't help, have people trespassing on other properties when they're not supposed to be doing that. Next is just a clarification. Right now, our Public Works Department has a driveway standard for residential districts that governs how many driveways you can have on a property, how far those driveways need to be away from each other. Currently, that is a standard that the Public Works has that's not in our development code. And we want to add it to our development code just for disclosure purposes, so that, someone doesn't decide to do a project or want to improve their property and go through our development code, don't see a requirement for what they want to do, start to do it and get told by the county that they can't do it because, there's someplace else. And so this is just making sure that, we have disclosure standards or disclosure on all of our codes within our development code. Next is parkland dedication. We are expanding what is considered what uses could be considered parkland dedication. Just really quickly, anytime there's new maps that are done in the county, those maps are required to dedicate a certain portion of their property to parkland. They can either put that parkland on their property or they can pay a fee in lieu of. And if they decide to put parks on their maps, we want to expand different types of uses like, for example, open space, sport activities, dog parks, etc. That would count as credit towards parkland dedication. Next, we have in our neighborhood mixed-use zone, commercial kennels are allowed with veterinary services. So as long as the kennel is indoors, it's allowed by right if you have a vet office. What we're proposing is, why do you have to have a vet office? What if someone just wants to do an indoor commercial kennel, which is similar to what's already allowed if you have a vet office? Could we allow that in the neighborhood mixed use as a service? More people have animals, more people are traveling, and there's been a need for commercial kennels in this area. So this would allow commercial kennels indoors by right, and if they wanted to have any component that was outdoors, they would have to go through a conditional use permit process. Next are instructional services in our general industrial zone. We realize that there are some uses like, you can see like CrossFit gyms and things of that nature that have been able to go into a karate studio that have been in other industrial areas in other jurisdictions, and we wanted there to be the opportunity if someone wanted to do it. They'd have to go through a conditional use permit, but right now in our industrial areas, if someone wanted to, in one of the buzz boxes by the airport, if they wanted to have a karate studio, we would just say no. And this gives someone the opportunity to do it if they want to go through a conditional use permit process and get approved by our planning commission. The next two are really maintenance issues that we want to have stronger language in our development code. Your board has given us direction again on the importance of cleaning up our commercial corridors. Jeremy talked about it in his presentation. And these next two, adding language for landscape care and maintenance, and also signs. The signs we're talking about are, if you've seen like the signs that get stuck in the ground and they just kind of wave, it's like welcome new business. We want to have language in there that if those those signs start to fall down or tattered and don't look nice, that we have language that, you know, we can enforce to make sure our commercial corridors are looking the way that we want them to look. Next, right now, CAL FIRE required as part of our safety element update that we did a couple of years ago, that new projects and these projects are not building permits. You know, someone putting in a shop, a barn, a new house. These are projects that have to go to either the Development Review Committee, the Planning Commission, or your board for approval. CAL FIRE requires that those projects have a fire safe plan. And we're just adding language into our development code stating that that is a requirement. So if anyone, again, similar to the driveway situation, so if anyone's going through our code and they want to see what they're going to be required as part of their project, we have it in our code for them to see it and them not get surprised when they talk to staff later that that's a requirement. And lastly, we inserted some language that made it a little bit clear, or more clear, excuse me, on what discretionary versus ministerial means in our development code. And for you guys to know, discretionary is something that someone is, you know, voting on your board, the planning commission, and or development review committee, whereas ministerial is something that's allowed by right. And so we wanted that to be clear in the language so people were clear on that. Then if you guys want, I can stop right now and answer any questions on any of the stuff I just talked about, or before I get into the proposed zone changes, or I can just get through the zone changes and go from there. Do you have?
Through the chair, I have a question on chain link fences. Are they legal in the front yards, or is there a height restriction on the front yard?
So right now, and this is going to remain, chain link fences are allowed in residentially zoned properties. And are allowed in the front yard. We're only seeking to make it clear that new developments, multifamily residential, commercial, and industrial have chain link fences that, or don't have chain link fences, that they have a higher level of fence or a more upgraded fence. So to get to your question about height, yes, there is a requirement that, but it's a little I don't want to say it's convoluted. It depends on where the fence is located. If it's located right on the property line, it can't be more than 3 to 4 feet in height. If it's moved back to past the front yard setback, it can go up to 6 feet in height if it's past the front yard setback.
On a similar note, what is the next level of fence that's going to be allowed? I assume it's for aesthetic purposes.
Yes.
And what's that cost increase going to be for those developers?
I'm not sure on the cost increase. You know, right now, it would probably be wrought iron or something else as proposed. You know, we just want to make sure that if someone in our commercial businesses, you know, we don't really see it so much in our, like Costco, they don't have any fences or those types of things. It's businesses that, you know, we want to make sure that it was just clear for multifamily that they're not putting in chain link fence, that we want them to have either a wood or a wrought iron fencing. And in terms of cost difference, I don't know that right now.
Okay, so I mean, I guess that when I hear the word, it has to be better than chain link, that leaves a lot of room for interpretation. So that's why I was curious if there was there's not a ranking of this is the quality of fences. And
no, we don't have anything right now that says, you know, here, this is what you have to do. And you know, again, we still give that up to the developer to make a proposal to us.
Okay.
So if they can find something that's not chain link that meets, you know, their costs, you know, what they need to develop, then, you know, we'll be as you know, agreeable as possible on making that work.
All right, and then my other question was, as far as these zoning requirements affecting people, is there a public comment or a public input phase that occurs where people can say, hey, what's going on? I'm being notified. How does that work?
Yeah, we do public notification that, you know, we do it through the newspaper. When we do large projects like this, we don't notice everyone in the county that could be affected. You know, state law just makes sure that we post it through a newspaper and on our website. Part of the reason why we had the hearing with the Planning Commission was to notify, which that was notified, this hearing was notified, was to elicit public comment from people from the public and the planning commissioners on this change. So there, we don't do this just in a dark room, no windows. We try to make this as open as possible to the public. And frankly, some of these changes that we're requesting were requests from the public. That we keep an ongoing running list. Okay. And try to incorporate them as best as we can.
Now, a lot of the changes are for new situations, which means you can't individually notice somebody because you don't know who's going to bring in a new business of that sort. But anything that affects current, they're either grandfathered in or they've been noticed about what these changes how they will affect them?
Yes, that's correct. So, for example, like with the chain link fencing, if there's an existing industrial business that has chain link fence, they're fine. They're not going to, and again, we're not going after people that, that's not the intention of this. This is only for new development moving forward that we have certain standards.
And there's, I'm sorry.
Oh, are you done?
One last question, because the comment I had received was there was a fear that there's insufficient public notification. And so I'm just wondering what's reasonable. Obviously, we're not going to go door to door and knock on every door and say, here's the changes we're making to our Valley Growth Code. We've done the newspaper, we've announced in Planning Commission, we're having this hearing here. Is there any other ways that people do in other jurisdictions to notify people or make it available?
This is a really good question, and one thing that I can make a commitment to in 24 moving forward is to try to have maybe a public workshop where before we go to the Planning Commission we have a public workshop. It won't take too much staff resources to put something on our website, maybe put something out on a notice in the newspaper and hold a meeting with people from the public before we actually go to the Planning Commission. And that's something that I definitely think would be a good idea moving forward.
All right, thank you.
I think Supervisor Messick had a question.
Yeah, I had a couple. Not as many as Seth, though. On the truck parking facility, they could still do that in that zone with a conditional use permit. Say there was a piece of property that wasn't really good for any other commercial development. Could they bring in a use permit for that, or is it going to completely eliminate it?
So right now we're saying no on the conditional use permit, only within the Valley Growth Boundary.
Yeah.
They're outside the Valley Growth Boundary. There's a number of properties that are zoned agricultural industrial along the Highway 70 and on the Highway 20 corridors. That we're saying yes, you could do it there, but we want to make sure, given that we do have approved facilities right now that are not hardly getting utilized, that we don't run into a situation where we allow this on ground that potentially could be used for uses that have jobs or other more urbanized industrial uses.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Quick question, are there any rules on feather signs?
On was feather signs?
Yeah, these things that look like a big feather that stick up out of the ground.
So we do have prohibit the signs like the man sign, like that have like air and they move around like this. Those signs right now aren't allowed. But other than those signs, we don't really. I don't know if we have a prohibit.
Well, the feather signs look like a big feather. They stick them in the ground, and you can only read them usually on one side, and most of the time they're kind of.
I think those are what we're talking about, like the banner signs, like where there's like a stake that goes in the ground. They go up maybe 10 feet, and they have one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are they allowed, or there's rules?
So they are allowed, and in our code they're allowed on a temporary basis. They're supposed to be, advertising like a sale or a new business.
But not year-round.
And not year-round.
Okay.
And one of the things, we haven't really enforced those year-round. And so there's a number of them along our commercial corridors that are, again, falling over, are tattered, and we just want to have language in there that, allows us to enforce if they're starting to look bad.
Okay, I think we're going to let you proceed.
I have one more question. Through the chair.
One more question, quick one.
Well, I have a comment first. Could you show us how the man moves around again for the audience? Same thing.
I thought you guys would like that.
On the code, when you guys get all this done, can we come up with like a Reader's Digest version or preferably an IKEA version for the public so when they go in there, they don't have to read through a gazillion pages? And like for the driveway width, I had a complaint. A guy built a house and he didn't know, and he put his driveway in like a foot narrower than code, and So then we have to go back and do another extra foot.
I appreciate these suggestions. I think having the workshop's a great suggestion. And one of the things, even thinking today, like on this presentation, I was talking, thinking to myself that, wow, we don't really show or don't have something that shows yearly what each one of these changes were, so someone could see what was changed over the last 5 years. And that's something that I'll have staff work on, so that we have some place that, we have our development code that's 500 some odd pages, but then we also have like maybe an appendix that shows, annually the big changes that we've made, and then have a hyperlink to that if someone's on our website that they can click on it and it'll go directly to that link. That's definitely something that we can work on and get done in 2024. All right, moving on to the proposed zoning changes. This should be pretty quickly. All right, so first of all, we're proposing 2 zone changes. One is an individual lot and one's a corridor. So if you guys remember, it came to your board about 6 months ago. There was a gentleman who has a property along Highway 70 in Lyndhurst Avenue that was proposing an outdoor sign, a big billboard sign, electronic sign, excuse me. The proposal's really nice. He ran into a little snafu with Caltrans. In order to get the permission from Caltrans to put on that sign, the property has to be zoned either industrial or industrial. No, commercial or industrial, excuse me. This property right now is zoned to public facility, and in order to help facilitate the approval that the Planning Commission and your board has already given him, we're proposing that property be changed from public facility to general commercial. This will allow him to move forward with the sign. Caltrans was very specific that he couldn't apply for a change of zone himself. It could only go through a county initiated process. So that's why it's in front of you right now. And the second change that we're looking to seek is right now along the Rancho Road corridor. All of the corridor, or most of the corridor, is zoned light industrial. Your board might be aware that the water agency with the county and OPUD are looking to create a sewer project that would go along the Rancho corridor and provide sewer to the community of Wheatland and or the sports and entertainment zone that will be running right past this Rancho Road corridor. And we want to make it easier for businesses and manufacturing businesses to come into this corridor once sewer and water are available. Right now, there's no sewer and water. Any proposal would need to have a well and septic system for their water and wastewater needs. But in the future, we don't want this large investment that's going to happen on infrastructure and to hold up or to get people to come in and then have to go through a conditional use permit process if they want to do a manufacturing business or something of that nature. We want it to be ready for business and ready for people to come in and utilize the infrastructure that's going on. And so this will allow more industrial type uses along that Rancho Road corridor in the future. So with that, that's the proposals that I have right now. Staff has determined that these changes are minor in scope, that they fit under the approved Yuba County General Plan EIR that was adopted in 2011. And because of that, the project is exempt from CEQA, or the ordinance is exempt from CEQA pursuant section 15183. And so our recommendation, excuse me, is to adopt the ordinance repealing and reenacting Title 11 of the Development Code, amend the zoning map, and determine the project is exempt from SECRA in accordance with section 15183, which is a mouthful right there. So I'm here to answer any questions that you guys might have, and I guess.
So we got a couple of steps here. We have public comment. We got board comment.
Yes.
And then we will get to the motion, which somebody can read, and it will end up being a roll call vote. So, any public comment? Doesn't appear we have any. Any more board comments?
Through the chair, I have a quick question. If you can back up to the slide with the zone changes. The little section that is kind of to the northwest of that area that's changing zone between Highway 65 and Ostrom Road. Do you know what that zoned? And I'm just curious why that little section right there was
That
excluded.
property is zoned general commercial. So
Okay,
it's
so it already
the
is.
property just south of Ostrom Road. And you can see it makes a little bit of an L, as that's the property you're talking
Yes.
about. That property is zoned general commercial.
Okay, so it'll be all the same over there. Great, thank you.
I got actually a quick comment. We haven't done this for about 6 years. Is that right? Tweaking this?
No, we've actually done this annually since about 2019. So originally, when the development code was updated in 2015, it was like 20 years from the last time it was updated, and your board wanted us to make it more of a living document, and so we've really made it a point since about 20. I think we did it in 2017, and we skipped a year, but 2019 on, we've brought back annual changes to your board.
Yeah, it seems like something you'd have to do pretty much every year because things keep coming up.
Yeah, again, like the development code or the zoning ordinance prior to 2015, I think it was last overhauled in 1983, and cell phone towers, the world was just a different place, and your board wanted to make sure that we didn't run into a situation, like we had where it was completely outdated. So that's why we bring it back to you annually.
Can you put that resolution back up that we're supposed to approve so we can read it? Okay. I think we're done with public comment, board comment, and if somebody would like to make a motion based on what you see in front of you.
I think there was a couple board comments left.
Oh, there is?
Oh, well, then just me. So I have, again, questions about process, and I apologize for not understanding the process correctly. When somebody does something, and let's say they do want to have a solar farm, and it's small, and we're like, yeah, that's okay, is it the planning commission that would grant the conditional use permit, or no, it's going to come before our board, and we're going to give them a conditional use permit, or no, we would have to completely go back and reenact this and allow it? What is the...
So it depends, and let me make it clear that solar farms are separate in what we're talking about on this. Like, for example, like this is just someone that has a property that just puts solar on. We're not prohibiting someone from putting solar on their existing business, their existing property, any of that in the Valley Growth Boundary. That, we know, but if someone did want to go through and build a solar farm and it did require a conditional use permit, that would go to our planning commission for approval, and it would only go to your board if someone appealed the planning commission's decision.
Okay, so people can at any point do something outside of what we're enacting through the planning commission by getting that conditional use permit approved by them?
Yes, for solar, it would be outside our Valley Growth Boundary, but yes, they can get a conditional use permit to do it through the planning commission.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, I think we're good on board comments, and somebody can make a motion based on what you see in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, please close the public hearing.
What?
Close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing, waive the reading, and adopt the ordinance to repeal and reenact the Title 11 Development Code and County Zoning Map, and determine project is exempt from CEQA, Section 15183.
Okay, we're a little bit out of sequence here.
He made a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, that was Brad's motion. Yeah,
I'll second.
Okay.
All right.
So what?
Roll call vote.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
So you were saying before we vote. Okay, we're going to move on to number 651. And Mary, would you like to read that?
Yes, of course. So it is agenda item 651-2023, Community Development Services, public hearing, hold public hearing, and adopt resolutions to approve the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan and tentative subdivision map LDIV/22-0014. Adopt resolution declaring APN 021-210-047 and 021-207-010 as exempt surplus land pursuant to Government Code 54221, and to develop APN's, and authorize Community Development and Services Director to release requests for proposal to develop APN's 021-210047 and 021-207-010 with affordable housing. Adopt resolution authorizing the board to make a finding of public benefit for the Fernwood Village project pursuant to Government Code, Section 25539.4.
Okay, we're opening the public hearing. There's 3 resolutions in here. I want to make sure they're in the right sequence. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name's Kara Fisher. I'm a senior planner with CDSA. This project is a collaborative project between CDSA and Habitat for Humanity. We are requesting a tentative subdivision tract map on 10 acres that will create 75 residential lots and a 0.42 acre park in our medium density residential zone. 32 of these lots will be zero lot line, which can accommodate either single family or halfplex, and then 43 of them will remain single family. This project is located at 5871 Grove Avenue and 1708 Ash Way. This is south of Northville Road and east of State Route 70 within the community of Linda. The county owns 5871 Grove Avenue, which is also Fernwood Park, also known as Park Circle. And then Habitat for Humanity owns 1708 Ash Way. Here we have the vicinity map. As you can see, it's south of Northville Road.
Point of order. Could you pull the second mic down closer to you so we can, I can't really hear you that much.
Okay. Is that better? And you stand closer?
Right.
There we go. Okay, so this property is located, as I mentioned, Park Circle Park, located in Linda, south of Northville Road, located by Edgewater Circle. Here we have a close-up of the property. As you can see, the property is mainly vacant. The Park Circle Park only encompasses about a quarter of the property. It is between Fernwood Drive and Grove Avenue and south of Ash Way. The current Habitat for Humanity piece is that north piece, and they currently have an access easement through Ash Way. Here is the subdivision map. As you can see with the map, that Habitat for Humanity property and the remaining entirety of the project will only have access from Gold Street, which will go all the way through from Grove Avenue to Fernwood Drive. This project is consistent with our general plan land use designation of Valley neighborhood and our zoning of medium density residential. They're currently requesting 7.5 units per acre on 10 acres, which RM currently allows 6 to 17 units per acre, so this is on the lower end of the units that are allowed per the medium density residential zone. As I mentioned, the map will extend Gold Street through the property. They provide access from Grove Avenue and Fernwood Drive. This will provide Habitat for Humanity's property access from Grove and Fernwood instead of utilizing that current access easement on Ash Avenue. We do have a condition of approval if this map is approved that easement will be removed. The Habitat for Humanity property may be constructed at a different time or by a different builder because it is owned by them, not by the county. All 22 of the lots that are located within that property will be the zero lot line. It does have public utilities to Linda County Water District, and Linda Fire Protection will provide fire protection services. And it has met all of our subdivision map findings in the affirmative. As I mentioned, this is an affordable housing project, so these will be available to household incomes not exceeding 80% of the area median income. Per HCD, these will be owner occupied for a period of 45 years. So there is 2 resolutions. They will Later in the discussion, we'll discuss them in order. You'll have to approve them, declare the land as exempt surplus land, and then allow the CDSA director to find an RFP, to issue an RFP, and then also make that determination that the project provides a public benefit. There was an environmental document prepared. We prepared a mitigated negative declaration with mitigation monitoring plan. We incorporated all of the agency comments that we received into the mitigation measures as well as into the mitigated negative declaration. We incorporated staff's conditions and other agency comments, as I mentioned, into the conditions of approval as well. We routed the project for public comments. We posted it in the paper, and we received 4 comment letters, which was included in your attachments. Some of the concerns that were mentioned were density of housing. The property was originally too dense for the area, and then to install a masonry wall along the northern boundary of the property, and then also for the park to potentially be larger or placed in a different location. And so those comments were brought forward to our first Planning Commission meeting. There were 2 meetings. The first one, the commissioners requested the county return with addressing the comments from the neighbors. And so at that second meeting in August, staff presented a revised request. We reduced the number of lots from 89 to 75. I did want to note the masonry wall comment. There is nothing right now in our development code that would require a masonry wall next to single-family residential at this location because we are proposing less than 10 units per acre. And so if there was more than 10 units per acre with this project, then the staff would recommend the wall. Unfortunately, there is not. So also, we're proposing to keep the location of the park at its current location. This will allow maintenance access and because of the existing drainage canal. At this meeting, there was 2 motions that were made and they both failed. The first motion was to approve the project without the masonry wall, and that failed. It was a 2-2 vote. And then the second motion was to with the masonry wall, and that one failed as well. They were both in favor of the residential component. It was just the masonry wall aspect that they were unable to reach a consensus on. And so with that in mind, that is one reason why we're in front of you today. And then Kevin Perkins will be elaborating as well on some project specifics and the recommendations.
Yeah, hello again. I'm Kevin Perkins with Community Development. I just kind of want to give you guys some context of this project, you know, where it came from, the history behind it, and why it was designed the way that it was designed. You know, I think this is probably going on 8 or 9 years, like in concept. You know, there's originally a plan literally drawn on a paper napkin on what this could look like, and the genesis of trying to come up with a development on the site really stems from the fact that Fernwood Park, which is a, you know, close to 7.5 acre parcel, isn't a 7.5 acre park. It's basically a 1/4 acre park with 7 acres that over the history of time, you know, has drawn a lot of issues because it's not developed fully with the park. You know, our sheriff's department have had issues with vagrancy, criminal acts that have gone on in that department. Our code enforcement department has been out there numerous times for similar type issues. You know, people camping, living, setting up, you know, camps in there, and you know, all sorts of stuff. And also our public works department has been affected by the 7 acres of unused property with, you know, increased maintenance on the site, and also fixing up, you know, things that break, and vandalism as well. And in addition to the county, the neighbors have also talked about their properties being broken into and having vandalism on their properties because of this large issue. And so we really wanted to solve a problem. We wanted to do a couple of things. We wanted to make sure that, we ended this lack of utilization of this vacant spot that wasn't park. And then we also wanted to help increase our housing stock and affordable housing stock on that. We have a lot of rental, or we're starting to get more rental. I don't want to say a lot. We're starting to get more rental units for affordable housing in the county, but one thing we don't have a lot of is owner-occupied units. And really, one of the ways it's been documented by the state and other places is people gaining wealth through equity in their homes is one way to help people, get out of being, having less income than not. So we thought this was a really good idea. Habitat for Humanity bought the property to the north of the Fernwood Park area a few years back. One thing I do want to discuss, and Kira mentioned it briefly, is right now legal access to the Habitat for Humanity parcel is off of Ash Way. And if you notice, there's a property in between Ash Way and the Habitat for Humanity property. And that area, I guess to the east, that's driveway, is actually a legal easement that Habitat would have. If they built this property or this project standalone, they would basically encumber that driveway with a road, and the gentleman's property off of Ash Way, would have a road going through serving 22 potential parcels. And so, we thought it was a good idea to partner with Habitat for Humanity on this project so that their project could have access off of Fernwood and Grove Avenue and not have access off of Ash Way. And as part of the MAP conditions of approval, we required a condition of approval that Habitat for Humanity relinquish the easement that they have as part of this project, and when they move forward to develop their project, they'll be required to relinquish the easement, so that easement will go away, and the property owner doesn't have to worry about a street being built on their side of their property. Additionally, if you can go back to that last slide, Kira, I want to talk about the process. There is 3 different resolutions before your board, and I want to make sure you guys are clear with all 3 resolutions and why. The first resolution that we have before you, and again, we want them adopted in this 1, 2, 3 order, is a resolution that would declare the 2 APNs as exempt surplus land, and then authorize the CDSA director to release an RFP. And so, as you guys know, community development are not housing developers. We're not builders. We're not, in the business of developing houses. And so what our plan was, if your board approves this project, was to, and again, this will be a multi-step process. We'll come back to your board with an RFP with guidelines on how we want to see this project developed. And so your board will get a second chance to say, again, the map will be the map, but, we can put in requirements in the RFP on how we want the developer to develop the houses, the type of houses, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is a kind of a multi-stage process that I want to let you know. And again, the reason we're doing exempt surplus land is because this is affordable housing. The state allows an exemption, so we don't have to go through the regular surplus land disposition process. This allows, because it's for affordable housing, we can exempt it and not have to go through a lengthy process that involves notification and to a number of agencies, and then a bidding process for the property. And so our goal is to have a housing developer on the county's piece to develop this, and we'll do that through an RFP process. So that's the first resolution, and the reason that goes first is because if you can't make that finding, then the rest of the project can't move forward. The second one is there's a requirement to making a public benefit on this type of a project, and because of the affordability component and the surplus land part. And so we're making a finding that this project is a public benefit that the county needs more housing and it needs more affordable housing. So that would be the second. And the third action is the resolution that would actually adopt the project and adopt the CEQA document that went along with the process. So I know that's a lot of explaining. I hope that helped. I'm here to answer any questions that your board might have before you open it up for a public hearing.
So we are taking these individually. So is there any public comment on the? On the first item.
They get one public comment on the whole item. Your votes are 3. You have 3 specific actions in one item.
Right.
They only get one public comment.
So now we could ask for public comment on all 3.
Yeah, the whole project.
Okay. All right. I think we're getting clear on this. So we are open for public comment now on the whole project.
Okay, I'll come back and answer any questions that you guys might have for staff when public comment is done.
I'll put the map up.
Through the chair, we do have 3 cards. I will go ahead and read the first name. It's Kim Eldine.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Kim Eldine, 5881 Grove Avenue. Linda, I appreciate the opportunity to be here before you, and I appreciate your consideration of our views on what is happening with Fernwood Park. Not to go over all of the stuff that we've already brought up to the board, the concrete fencing, I'll bring that one up. Our property. Even with the reduced number of housings in there, we still have 18 properties bordering our 1 acre. Now, all of you are homeowners. If the wind comes up, you got a massive storm and your fence goes down, you have to work with, what, 1, 2, maybe 3 people to get a new fence up. We will have to work with 18 people to fix the fence. If the dogs tear it up, if the kids tear it up, if the whatever happens, it'd be wonderful to say that they're going to be great homeowners over there, and I hope they are. But the reality is you look down Grove Avenue and we've got maybe 50% that are great homeowners, and then we got that other 50%. My other concern is I understand that this is 45 years of affordable housing over there. And that means that it can't be rented out. That's great. I love that. But what happens when the homeowners don't take care of that property because it is affordable housing and they don't understand the consequences of not fixing the screw when it comes loose and they let these houses fall apart, especially half-plexes. I am absolutely opposed to any half-plexes being put in over there. The historical effects of half-plexes has been horrible. I don't want to have the county approve something that when it goes in is wonderful, it's beautiful, we move all these people in and they're there for maybe 5 years and they build up some equity, which is what we want to have happen, and they sell and they move on. And during that 5 years' time, they've done no maintenance. So the next family moves in and they're in a not quite such a nice house, and the thought is, you know, there's some sweat equity here, they can build it up, they can fix it. They don't have the money to do that. So we got about 5 years and they move on, they've built up a little equity, and now we have, I can't even come up with a nice word to call what we will end up with there in about 10 years. With property that no one has been maintaining. There may be a few people, I'm not saying that all affordable housing people are bad, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that we don't need it, we do. But an influx of that many houses in that small of an area, my last understanding is they were putting curbs and sidewalks on one side of the street, so the other side of the street gets nothing.
Can you, you're going to have to watch your time a little bit. We try to stay within 3 minutes.
That's my biggest concern. I don't want to see us put this in and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what's happening over there? What are we going to do? We have to have a plan in place to take care of these issues prior to the event. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next person we have is John Eldine.
Obviously, I'm at the same address. So thank you for your time. I would ask you if you would look at our letters that had been submitted. And so there was a lot of detail in those letters. So if you'd please look at those that was part of the attachments. The thing I wanted to bring up was, you know, I didn't receive any of the updated information that the Planning and Zoning Commission had put together for the next steps of this. Sierra sent me a email yesterday, which I appreciate that. We've worked closely with the Planning and Zoning on this. But in that process then, with the mitigation, that part of this, I covered part of this in my letter, that because it's affordable housing, they didn't need to look at what it was going to take for the impact in our community of traffic. Because if you've ever tried to get on Earl Road in the morning, it's impossible. Same with in the afternoon. So the impacts of bringing this much people into our community is going to be huge. So to me, that's one of the things that we really need to be aware of is what are the impacts of this. Now, if there's some way we can mitigate that, boy, I'm all for being able to help people to, you know, be brought up to be able to help them in, you know, having a nice home, being able to grow their economical livelihood. But at the same time, well, think of the impact of what that's going to be to bring that many families in. Like my wife said, there's going to be 18 of those properties that's going to border my home. And what is the impact that's going to be to me? So we're not after a sound wall. We're just after a wall that's going to be able to, not in 5 years, that I'm going to have to be worrying about repairing. Because it's 45 years this is going to be working. So, you know, take that into consideration and think what it would be like to have that be your home. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Okay, next person we have is Karen Bradwell.
So Karen has asked if I would speak for her. So her points were, any traffic studies produced on Grove Avenue, and is there plans to develop Grove Avenue to support additional residents? And so that's one of Karen's great concern is, you know, what is, again, the traffic impact that's going to happen there? And will there be occupancy residents who will enforce those if implemented? And I'm not sure, so you're looking for people there that would be...
Who maintains?
Who's going to make sure that they're maintaining their homes?
Right.
And taking care of their properties? Is there any plans, contacts, or intention by the county to use any of these dwellings for California Department of Corrections, Department of Health and Human Services, or behavioral health programs? So is it going to be, I mean, all of these people that are going to be buying these homes because they're individual bought, is there any plans to being able to make exceptions for any of those particular types of folks, whether Department of Corrections, Department of Health, Human Services, or behavioral health programs, to be able to make it much easier for them to get a home? Is that what you're after?
Yes. My husband wrote this and he's sick, so he can't be here. So.
Was there anything else you wanted to bring up? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
No more cards.
Okay. Yes.
Hello, Joseph Hale, Habitat for Humanity. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up and speak on this project. Definitely appreciate the concerns of the families. One of the things we are doing on our property is we are putting in a masonry wall on our portion. We do understand that it's not a normal condition, but in working with, in the future for the development part, we're definitely willing to add that portion to the development. We just understand that it may not necessarily be something that would be added on a situation where there's a tentative map. The other element I wanted to bring up, and our Family Services Director, she can come up and kind of make mention of it, is, a lot of times we work with families. We definitely invite people to come and see our sites. I think sometimes there's a perception of low-income housing, depending on how it's ran, what population it serves, that it is kind of a really wide range of impacts depending on how it's done. The families that are priority for a site like this would just be individuals who are making, between 50 to 80% in that range of that median income. So it's not, I know sometimes I hear things about, unhoused or various things. This home ownership level is really in place for people who are ready for home ownership, may just need an extra bit of help to get there. We often have CCNRs in place, things like that we work with the jurisdiction on to make sure that the properties are maintained properly. That's an important element to us because we're going to be here in the long term and we want to be great community partners. So definitely a big importance for us as well in the perception and how these projects are handled. So, and if you have any more questions, definitely willing to come up and answer any of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Do we have any board comments?
Through the chair. This is a 45-year project. I can go back to a home that I lived in '63, and there's a block wall that's still there. And that, to me, would seem to be a no-brainer to do block walls on that project because it is a proposed life of 45 years, and I think that wood won't stand up, and I'd like to see the whole complex have some barriers that are substantial that will last throughout the proposed time, and we're going to have to establish who would be able to maintain those properties or make sure they're maintained and be able to enforce it. So we're going to have somebody, either a homeowners association or some organization, because I don't think the county wants to assume that responsibility for 45 years. So.
Do we have another comment? Gary?
Yeah, through the chair, I have a question. It was kind of brought up about as the properties turn over to new owners, and I was just curious. I know that there's income restricted for at least the initial purchase, and I'm assuming maybe future purchases as well. But is there also, it's below market rate, at least for initial sale of the property? I guess these are questions. And then for subsequent sales, how does that work? So I guess as it turns over time, is it like the first owner gets to take advantage of all this maybe equity and then future owners don't, or that's somehow limited and controlled?
So how it works, and this is a really good question, is so they again these homes could be priced at whatever level. It's just whatever someone qualifies. So the people who are coming in that could potentially live in these homes, they have to have good credit. A lender has to give them a loan to be able to go into these homes. So say they buy the home, they live in it for 5 years, and they decide to sell. There'll be a deed restriction on it. So when they do go to sell, they could gain equity in it and sell it for more than what they sold, as long as whomever is buying the property also qualifies that they can show that they meet 80% of the median household income of the area. And so it would be, because the deed restriction on the county property, there wouldn't be anything. Habitat's section is different because they own that, and they can put on the requirements that they want to put on that. But for the county requirements, the county staff would be through each escrow would have to ensure that the new buyer met the income requirements.
Through the chair, would that be something we could actually include in this document? The financing and sale of the house?
I'm not really, if you can give me a little more clarity on what your specific act, would you like
said
us?
There's deed restrictions.
Yeah,
and
that would be part of, that first resolution we're asking you to do is part of the determining, making this a determination that this is an exempt surplus property. HCD, Housing and Community Development from the state, requires that 45-year restriction. And so when we go to, however we do this, and as I mentioned before, this is going to be there'll be a second component to this if your board approves this project, that will come back with an RFP, and that request for proposal will lay out what we want to see from the developer to develop the county side of the parcels. And we can include that language and discussion that it needs to be owner occupied for 40 years and that they're going to have to put in a deed restriction, or the county will put in a deed restriction on the properties so that we make sure that's enforced moving forward. So that all is something that we could put in the request for proposal, which would be the next step after your board, if your board approves this project, would be the next step.
Okay.
Quick question. Anybody else?
So
All right. I have a quick question.
Let me clarify that this is going to come before the board again with the
Yes.
expanded
So
information on
again, this is before you is approving the conceptual approving the project, which would be approving the map, making the determination that the project is exempt surplus land, making a finding that it's for public benefit, and also giving the CDSA director authorization to prepare a request for a proposal or an RFP. And so that RFP will come back to your board, because your board has to approve the RFP on what requirements we put in that RFP for the developer to develop the county portion of the project.
So we could put in the masonry wall and the financial.
So the masonry wall would be a condition on the map, yes or no? So that would need to be decided today on that. And again, Kira mentioned it. Staff doesn't have the ability to require the masonry wall because our code says it's not allowed, which is why we've moved forward on the process with not making it a condition of approval, because the density on this site doesn't meet the threshold of 10 units per acre, which is the threshold on when a masonry wall needs to be built to separate, to help separate multifamily from more single-family type use. And from a land use perspective, we would consider this project a single-family residential project. Its density meets the minimum requirements for the medium-density residential zone, and it's pretty similar to what we're seeing right now for single-family residential projects in Edgewater and in Plumas Lake as well. So I would ask your board if you guys want to require a masonry wall or not, to make that determination now and not at the RFP level. The RFP is just going to govern what we want to see, the type of homes, or different whatever else on the development of the site.
Well, I don't want to plan for failure, put wooden fences in. I think it'd be a wise investment up front. Put block walls in and make it livable for people for a long time. So.
Okay, quick question. I'm trying to compare in my mind this development, say, to the 500 units being built east of Yuba College. So the Fernwood does not mean these people are exempt from code enforcement or ordinances, so everybody's subject to the same rules, both developments.
Yes, that is true. If anyone's, their fence is falling down, their grass isn't being mowed, their property's not being maintained in a proper way, and it ends up, hopefully, knock on wood, and, it doesn't look like some of the pictures Jeremy had. But yeah, code enforcement could come in and require that.
Yeah, they're all subject to the same rules.
The same rules as all the properties in Yuba County.
Right. Okay. So density-wise, I don't remember for sure, but it seems like the Goldfield Parkway, that 500 units out there, that density was around 8 or not?
So right now, our single-family residential zoning district allows 3 to 8 units per acre as a density, and I believe Goldfields was 6.5 to 7. So this is, pretty close density to that site. One thing that I didn't really discuss on my earlier conversation, but since we're on the topic of density, this property is zoned medium density residential. It's 10.28 acres, and from a strict density point of view, you could have 180 units on this property. If someone came in, or the county made a decision to get rid of this property, and someone wanted to make an apartment complex on it, it could have upwards to 180 units on it. We didn't want, as part of the plan of this, we didn't feel like multi-family residential or 2-story, 3-story buildings in a generally single-family residential area wasn't a good fit for the area, and that's why we've tried to make the density where it's at on the lower end at 7.5.
Yeah, it does seem like it's a little bit on the lower end, or a comfortable number, I might say. So on the
again, it was reduced. Originally, the plan was at 89, and the neighbors brought some feedback, and the planning commission thought that it was a little too dense for the surrounding neighborhood, and asked us to refine the density, and we did take it back to the planning commission with a smaller and
So
less
typically,
dense
when you
proposal.
build out that 500 units, those fences are all constructed by the developer, and they're typically all, they require a certain level of wood fences, I imagine.
Yes, that's true. They're built up by the developer. And one thing I do want to add is your board last year at this time added a requirement in the development code that on production homes, and this would be considered a production home type of a project, that the fencing needs to have steel posts and not wood boards. So, the intention of it was, we wanted the developer to put in a higher, structurally more integrity, a fence that had more structural integrity by putting in a pole with concrete to make sure that fences don't fall over or rot like they've been doing.
That applies to Fernwood also.
And that will apply to the Fernwood project as well.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
I had a question, Kevin. Is there a plan for any improvements on Grove Avenue? I go through there all the time going to the airport, and it's downright dangerous in places. Or will this development, once it gets get rolling, put Grove on the short list for getting improvements?
I'll address a couple things. And one thing brought up by some of the public comment that there wasn't a traffic study done or a traffic analysis on this project. And I'll explain why. The state or the CEQA documents no longer judge a project by its level of service, like, the rating of the road, how much traffic is on. If it's, road with no traffic, it might be an A. If it's backed up traffic, Simpson Lane on Friday afternoon might be an F, right? Because it's backed up from the light on Ramirez all the way almost to the light on Hamilton-Smartsville Road. The state no longer looks at level of service when doing an analysis on a project. They've moved to this new terminology called VMT, vehicles miles traveled. So we have to do an analysis on how many vehicle miles this trip would do or not, and what its impact is in that regard, which affects air quality and other things that are important to the state. The state, however, has a caveat in this VMT requirement that there is no requirement for VMT studies on a 100% affordable housing project. So that's why a traffic studies don't get done anymore unless there, are some concerns on intersection improvements, et cetera. But this project didn't have a traffic study or a VMT analysis because it wasn't required by the state. It's part of the state really pushing for more housing and more affordable housing and setting up these rules that as a county we have to follow on that. In terms of Grove Avenue is a, is, I believe, being used as a thoroughfare road between North Beale and Earl Road. It can cut through Edgewater. And the plan was similar to what you're saying, is once we get this development in, we'll be applying for grant funding to develop these sites. And again, this isn't, the development of this site is really going to be dependent on the county or the developer as part of the RFP getting grant funding to do this. We don't have funding. The planning department, CDSA, doesn't have funding, in the range of $10 million to build this right now. We're almost going to exclusively rely on grant funding for this to happen. And as part of that, we can demonstrate the need for Grove Avenue to have further improvements as well, like sidewalks. I know it's a really narrow road, so I don't know if sidewalks would fit on both sides, but maybe sidewalks, bike lanes, something of that nature to improve the access from right now, this project being in the middle of Grove, to go up to North Beale and maybe south to Edgewater as well.
Well, you mentioned sidewalks, led me to another question. There's going to be sidewalks in the subdivision on both sides of the road, right?
Right now, it's proposed to have sidewalks on, it's a really tight fit to get all these homes in. And there will be path of travel and sidewalks on some of them, but there will be other ones the one side of the street that does not. And this is similar to what our planning commission has approved. There's another subdivision on North Beale Road, just west of the college on the south side of the road. And our planning commission approved a project similar to this with sidewalks, as a way of ensuring that we get infill development.
So it'll have curb and gutter?
Yes.
Any other board comments?
Turn my mic on here. Management of this complex as to maintenance and requirements to purchase this and the selling, that's pretty steep, and I don't think the county is ready to take on that job. Is Habitat for Humanity going to take care of those loose ends?
So from the county perspective, again, we are going to come back with an RFP to develop the county site to your board, and those like maintenance, limits on the properties. Those are things that we could put in the RFP. Again, I don't know, the RFP will need to go through county council, and I don't want to speak from, any legality point of view. But, if it's something that we can put some maintenance requirements in as part of the development of the project through the RFP, we certainly can do that.
Can I ask another question through the chair? One more? Since Habitat's already indicated they're going to do block wall around theirs portion, I'm not a big fan of block walls from yard to yard, but maybe on the 3 bigger parcels, a block wall or something that we know is going to last longer. Because it looks like our portion is going to border their property and Acosta and Coon property, which is a larger parcel. But all the rest of them are just lot to lot subdivision.
I do want to make one point of clarification on the Habitat and them discussing that it's their intent to put a masonry wall on their property. It might be their intent, but it's not going to be a requirement in the subdivision map. So if Habitat does that on their own, their own choosing, they can, there's nothing in our code saying that someone can't have an enhanced fence if they choose to do so. However, there's not we can't require that, and we're not requiring that because of the density of this project for the project's conditions of approval. Is that clear? Like that Habitat can choose to do this, but the minimum is set at just meeting the county standard on that.
And the county minimum standards is steel posts and concrete?
Steel posts, concrete, and wood fence in the back is the county standard.
I'm going to ask council this. Is there going to be a requirement that if we do some block walls, it's going to be all block walls, or?
Well, there There are a number of issues here if you choose to build a block wall only behind certain properties. And so ultimately it's desperate treatment between one parcel and another based simply on what was presented to the board. So essentially if you weren't here to sound off, you don't get the block wall. And additionally there was some discussion about the cost of replacing those, and there was some discussion earlier about, and I know it was at the Planning Commission, the cost, who would bear that, and under the California Civil Code lays out who the cost of offense is, who will bear that cost, unless the parties contract amongst themselves to change that. And the question related to the maintenance, because these are private, essentially they're low-income housing, but once they're sold, they're private housing. And so they couldn't be treated any different than any other neighborhood. So they could, there could be a homeowners association which would uphold those laws. Otherwise, the minimum standards would be upheld by county code enforcement like any other property.
Okay, you slow me up here if you have to, but can we roll back and look at these three resolutions and get to the point of approving the first one? Because if that's not approved, then we don't even do the other ones.
You need to designate the land as surplus, otherwise the project you can't go through the remainder of the resolutions.
Yeah, we have to make sure we approve the first one. If that's not approved, then we're dead. So I think we're to the point of entertaining a motion.
I'll move to close the public hearing and adopt resolution declaring APN 021210047 and 021207010 as exempt surplus land pursuant to Government Code 54221, and authorize CDSA Director to release a request for proposal to find a developer to develop APN 021211047 and 021207010 with affordable housing.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, and we're going to need a roll call vote.
Supervisor Vasquez?
No.
Supervisor Blazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr?
Abstain?
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, so now we can move on to the next two resolutions. I think we have to reopen. No. Okay. So, Kevin, do you want to attack number two? Or we pretty much covered it?
Yeah, we've covered it at this point. It's up to your board to make a motion on this.
Mr. Chairman, from here on out, you'll just you'll seek from your board members that somebody make a motion, entertain a motion on 2 and 3. You don't need any further public comment or presentation.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion on number 2.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution authorizing the board chair to make a finding of public benefit for the Fernwood Village project pursuant to Government Code 25539.4.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Supervisor Vasquez?
No.
Supervisor Blazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr?
Abstain?
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, now resolution number 3. Who would like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution approving the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan and approve tentative subdivision map LDIV-22-0014 subject to the conditions of approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Mary?
Supervisor Vasquez?
No.
Supervisor Blazer?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr?
Abstain?
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right. We're going to catch your breath here a second. You got it.
So next we have correspondence. The board may direct any item of informational correspondence to a department head for appropriate action. We have agenda item 72-2024, receive financial statements for Cordua Irrigation District for calendar year ending December 31st, 2022. Agenda item 73-2024, notice from State of California Department of Fish and Wildlife regarding clarifying process for approving use of propagation funds by county governments. Agenda item 74-2024, notice from the Federal Emergency Management Agency regarding annotated map panel for Yuba County revised by letter of map revision for floodplain management purpose and flood insurance policies and renewals. Agenda item 75-2024, receive audited financial statements and compliance reports for Yuba-Sutter Transit Authority for calendar year ending June 30, 2022 and 2023. 78-2024, receive financial statements for Ramirez Water District for calendar year ending December 31st, 2022. Agenda item 80-2024, receive financial statements for Dobbins, Oregon's House Fire Protection District for June 30, 2019 and 2020. That is all.
Thank you, Mary. We're going to do board and staff member reports, starting with Supervisor Vasquez.
Sure. My main concern is the management question of that complex and the traffic congestion of that complex. And I think we're just planning for failure on this project right now. That's pretty much it.
Supervisor Freer.
A couple of upcoming events. We have a Lyndhurst Choir fundraiser, I believe, tomorrow. So get your tickets for a tri-tip dinner. And then we have a ribbon cutting for across the parking lot that we're going to be doing on Thursday. And Friday is read Dr. Seuss books in elementary schools. So go do that, everyone, so that we can encourage, again, reading for children. And then I probably have more stuff, but I want to just also commend my fellow members for making the right decisions. And I think the County Council clarified some of the issues very well, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Bradford.
Thank you. So at our last board meeting, I was out of town at the NACO Ledge Conference. Updates to give, but instead of, in the interest of time, I'll just redirect folks toward my supervisor blog at supervisorbradford.org. I post a weekly update there about the meetings I attend and the events that I go to. So you can read all about it there. I won't make you listen to a month's worth of reports.
Supervisor Messick.
In the spirit of Supervisor Bradford, I won't talk about all the things I've done in the last 2 weeks, but I will throw out that March 16th will be a crab feed at the Loma Rica Lions Club. Tickets are going fast if there's any left. It's the third one in the series, and they've been great. There's a taco dinner at Brownsville Community Center on March 2nd. And May 4th, there will be the Yuba-Sutter Sheriff's Aero Squadron fundraiser dinner at the Yuba County Airport, live music, lots of raffle prizes, pulled pork taco dinner. It's going to be a great event. So everybody try to make that.
County Council.
Nothing from our office, Mr. Chairman.
CAO.
If I can get the green light to stay on. Nothing from my office. I believe Mary has something for you.
Mary.
Yes, I just want to go ahead and report that the clerk of the board's office will be providing a short synopsis of the pros and cons on Zoom meetings at our next Board of Supervisors meeting, which will be March 12th, 2024.
And just going to briefly mention it's the Year of the Dragon. So the BOK-KAI is on the weekend of the 9th. So that's coming up pretty fast. So we'll have the Dragon Parade, fireworks, bombs, etc. That's all I've got.
One last thing. On the synopsis, are we going to be allowed to vote to move forward with after the synopsis?
Yes, it can either be a presentation for you just to take the information and request that it be put on, or it can be an action item, whatever.
Let's go ahead and make it an action item then as well, if that's all right.
Consensus of the board.
Okay. Excellent. And then, of course, in case no one knew, voting is Tuesday, so vote.
Yes, the election is Tuesday. Okay, we're going to close the general session. We're going to take about 10 minutes, and then we're going to private section.
Through the chair,
Section.
could I please
Closed
clarify,
section.
was there consensus from the board for it to be an action item? Yes, okay.
Okay, 10 minutes. It's 12:04.
So we've got refreshments for you guys back there. All right.
You have snacks?
And we have Tiffany till 1. She has IHS.
Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.